The story of Blue Archive begins with Sensei, the main character, arriving in Kivotos, a huge academy city. This is Sensei in the anime, but in the game their appearance is never revealed, so you can imagine them as you like. As for Kivotos, while it is referred to as a city, it's more like a federation, made up of many districts instead of states. Each district centered around an academy. The reason Sensei got here is the disappearance of the General Student Council President, the highest authority in Kivotos, as the council serves as a sort of federal government. Before going missing, she assigned them the role of advisor for a club formed by the president herself, the Federal Investigation Club, Shale. The first thing to do is to reach the Shale building and regain control of the area, as there is a riot going on, orchestrated by a student that escaped the Federal Correction Bureau's custody, Wakamo, who is one of the 7 students that managed to escape prison. But the 7 prisoners is a topic that is only expanded upon in event stories, so you can forget about her for now. It is during this first battle that it's established that students are bulletproof, thanks to their halo. Not Sensei though, they don't have a halo. So their role during battle is to command from behind the front line. After reclaiming the Shale building, Rin, the vice president of the General Student Council, gives Sensei a special tablet called the Shittim Chest. A worst name ever, by the way. Left specifically for them by the president. It contains a unique super AI called Arona, who looks like the president, but in loli form. Not even Arona knows why the president is missing, but she is able to reactivate the Sanctum Tower, the most important building in all of Kivotos, from which one could manage the entire city. Sensei is one of the good guys, so they give Rin control of the Sanctum Tower, so she can serve as the acting president, until the missing president is found. So Sensei is now in charge of Shale, a club with no specific goal, which has extrajudicial authority in all of Kivotos. This means that Sensei can enter any of the academies, whenever they want. Sensei chooses to use Shale's authority to go around Kivotos, solving all sorts of problems students may be going through. Students hear of Sensei's arrival in Kivotos, so they start sending letters of request to Shale. Among them, there's one from Abydos High School. Apparently the school has been repeatedly attacked by the Helmet Gang. They are called this way because... yeah, you can guess why. Sensei heads there and passes out from hunger and dehydration after getting lost. Good job on your first job. They are found by Shiroko, one of the remaining 5 students at Abydos High School. Everyone else left years ago, after the district began to turn into a desert. The other 4 students are Ayane, Serika, Nonomi and Hoshino, who is the only remaining member of the former Abydos Student Council. Together they form the Forclosure Task Force, dedicated to saving the school from closing. The school owes a lot of money to a loan company, over 900 million yen in fact. And to stop the school from closing, the task force must pay a sum of money every month. With Sensei's guidance, the Abydos students beat the Helmet Gang after they attempt to kidnap Serika. Sensei decides to also help the task force with the money situation. Not by paying off the debt, mind you. It's not like Sensei has 900 million yen, but by helping them find a solution. But a new threat looms over Abydos. A group of guns for hire, called Problem Solver 68, is attacking the school. Its members are Haruka, Kayoko, Mutsuki and their leader Aru. They are all a bunch of troublemakers from Gehenna High School, who left their district and go around doing mercenary work. Thankfully for Abydos, it turns out that Problem Solver 68 is just a group of outcasts, without money, led by an idiot, so they are easily beaten. During the last battle with the Helmet Gang, the task force was able to recover a piece of a tank and trace it back to Kivoto's black market. So, to find out who hired the Helmet Gang and Problem Solver 68 to attack the school, they decide to go there to investigate. While at the market, they save a student from Trinity High School, Hifumi, from some random thugs. She's there to look for a limited edition plushie of Peroro from Momo and Friends, and an ice cream franchise collaboration. The Peroro lore is very important to the Blue Archive storyline. Shortly after, they find themselves in front of one of the biggest banks in the black market, through which a good chunk of the illicit profits from Kivoto's criminal activities flows. And there, they see the same bank employee who has been taking their interest payments every month, depositing their latest cash payment into the criminal bank. To get a better understanding of the situation, the Abydos students decide to get their hands on the transport documents. How? By hitting the bank, of course, payday style, while dragging Hifumi and Sensei with them. Not that Sensei seemed averse to the idea to begin with. Such a good teacher, being supportive of their students' initiatives. From the documents, it turns out that the loan company they were paying each month, Kaiser Loans, was directly funding the Helmet Gang that was attacking Abydos. But why would they do that? The next day, Problem Solver 68 is back, and they are not solving problems. They are blowing shit up, downtown Abydos. So the task force heads to confront them, without Hoshino, who had yet to show up at school. The fight is interrupted when a third party enters the scene. The prefect team of Gehenna High School, who are there to capture Problem Solver 68 and bring them back to Gehenna. However, the task force doesn't approve of the fact that another school's armed forces entered the district without permission and started blasting, escalating the entire situation into a political conflict. Abydos thinks it's their right to pass judgment on Problem Solver 68, as they are inside their jurisdiction. So the situation escalates into a battle between Abydos and the Gehenna prefect team. That's when the second in command, the senior administrator of Gehenna's Academy's prefect team, Ako, establishes communication with the Abydos students. And the chapter ends. Ako tries to negotiate with Abydos, however they refuse cooperation, as entering with armed forces in the district is a clear breach of jurisdictional authority. The prefect team refuses to leave, and things start to get suspicious. Why enter with an entire platoon in another district just to apprehend a group of troublemakers? It's becoming clear that they were anticipating a fight with Abydos, and that the true objective they were aiming for was Sensei all along. You see, the situation between Gehenna Academy and the other biggest school in Kivoto's Trinity is sort of like a Cold War. They are not in an open conflict, but they are trying to get ahead of each other in any way they can. And the arrival of Sensei and the formation of Shale drew their attention. Gehenna wants to get to Sensei before Trinity does. Sieged by the prefect team, the Abydos Task Force and Problem Solver 68 decide to temporarily join forces. The battle rages on, when suddenly the head prefect of Gehenna, Hina, enters the scene. She is one of the strongest students in all of Kivoto's, However, she's not there to fight. It turns out that Ako was acting of her own initiative, and when Hina found out, she rushed to the scene to stop the fighting. Hina apologizes for the behavior of her subordinates, and promises that Genna's prefect team will no longer enter Abydos without proper authorization. Before leaving, she shares with Sensei some information. Apparently, Kaiser Corporation is looking for something in the middle of the Abydos desert. After this event, Problem Solver drops the mission of taking out Abydos and decides to go into hiding, so that the prefect team loses track of them. In the meantime, Ayane starts looking into Kaiser Corporation and makes a shocking discovery. Kaiser has already acquired most of the Abydos district, except for the main school building. The transaction was made by the previous Abydos Student Council, before the Forclosure task force was even created. This was done to try to pay off the debt the school owed to Kaiser, after receiving a large loan of money from them. This was Kaiser's plan all along, to take advantage of the desertification of the district, to lend a sum of money to Abydos they would never be able to repay, so that they would be forced to sell their land. It was an ongoing plan that started years ago. But why does Kaiser want the land in Abydos so bad, even though it's all desert at this point? Well, as Ina said to Sensei, they are looking for something in the middle of the desert. What the task force ends up finding is a base recently constructed by Kaiser PMC, Kaiser's private army. The Abydos students get surrounded and are approached by the PMC director, who reveals himself to be the person, or robot, I guess, who paid the Helmet Gang and Problem Solver to attack Abydos, and the one to whom they owe the 900 million yen. To punish Abydos for attacking the base and showing them who is in control of the situation, he raises their debt by a crazy amount. The task force realizes that there is nothing they can do, and decides to leave and return to the school to reflect on the current situation. That evening, Hoshino decides to have a talk with Sensei, and she reveals that an individual with connections to Kaiser Corporation, only known as Black Suit, has been offering to make the debt disappear if Hoshino drops out of school and joins the group he manages. This individual is very suspicious, and apparently even the Kaiser director seems to be afraid of him. Despite Hoshino reassuring Sensei that she doesn't plan to drop out, and that she has already refused his offer, the next morning the other students find a letter of resignation when arriving at the club room. But no time to worry about that. Now that Hoshino is out of the picture, Kaiser has decided to attack the school. You see, Hoshino was the last remaining member of the Abydos Student Council, and with the task force being an unofficial club, the school has no authority left, and Kaiser, who already owns most of the district, wants to sweep in and take control of the school. I'm surprised Hoshino didn't see this one coming when she handed herself over. In the meantime, Black Suit reveals to Hoshino that the only reason he was working with Kaiser was to obtain her and use her as a test subject for his experiments. As according to him, there is something unique about her. What that something is will be explained later in the story. For now, just know that Hoshino, despite her laid-back appearance, is actually one of the strongest students in all of Kivotos. The situation seems hopeless, but then Problem Solver comes to the rescue. I guess after fighting against the prefect team together, they are friends now. Joining forces, they manage to push Kaiser back and protect the school. But there's still the matter of getting Hoshino back. Sensei decides to take matters into their own hands and goes to meet Blacksuit. He seems to know a lot about Sensei and would like to avoid becoming their enemy if possible. He is part of an organization that came from outside of Kivotos called Gematria. Their objective isn't entirely clear yet. They propose to Sensei to join forces, but Sensei refuses, obviously. Blacksuit, disappointed by Sensei's refusal, challenges them to rescue Hoshino if they can, and reveals where in the Abydos desert she's being held prisoner. Sensei knows the task force alone will not be able to beat Kaiser PMC, so they use their influence to ask for help. They go to Gehenna to pray to the prefect team for their help. They ask for the help of the Trinity Student Council through Hifumi. Even Problem Solver decides to help. I guess at this point they are basically best buddies with Abydos. With everyone's strength combined, they manage to defeat the Kaiser Director and save Hoshino. During the epilogue, the task force, with the help of Sensei, gets officially recognized as a club. The debt still exists, but Kaiser is being investigated by the General Student Council, and the director has been fired, and is now on the run. So things have calmed down for the moment. Many questions are left open. For example, what was Kaiser looking for in the desert? Or why Blacksuit was so interested in Hoshino? All of this will be revealed in later chapters, so stay tuned. Sensei receives a new request for help. This time it's from Millennium High School, one of the 3 most important schools in all of Kivotos, together with Gehenna and Trinity. This school is all about science and technology. It's basically a school for nerds, where nerds do nerd things. The request came from the twins Momoi and Midori of the game development department. The club, as the name suggests, is all about game development, even though they spend most of their time just playing video games. Here's the situation. Yuka, who is a member of Seminar, Millennium Student Council, has been really unsatisfied with the club's results, and adding to the fact that they don't even reach the required number of members to register as an official club, which is 4, she's planning to shut it down. So, Momoi proposes a bet. If the club manages to win the Millennium Prize, a competition in which all the clubs in the school periodically submit their latest work, then Yuka will allow the club to exist. The game dev department is planning to develop a game to win the prize. Duh. And Momoi shares a rumor with Sensei. The legend tells of the G-Bible, a long-lost technological artifact located in the ruins below Millennium High School that supposedly contains the secret to make the perfect game. So, Sensei and the twins make their way through the ruins, crawling with dangerous robots, and come across a chamber containing a young naked sleeping girl. But they are not in Epstein's basement, and she's not even a real girl. She is an android, codename AL1S. Coming in contact with Sensei, she reactivates, but she has no memories. She doesn't even know who she is. For the time being, they decide to take her back to the club room, and they start calling her Aris. They disguise her as a Millennium student, and they ever join the game dev department. By reaching 4 members, the club can now be officially registered. Since she lacks common sense and their speech is very robotic, they decide to teach her by using RPG video games. And by doing so, her speech gets less robotic. but not exactly normal, as she starts to speak like an RPG character. The president of the club, Yuzu, also finally makes her appearance by coming out of a cabinet where she has been hiding from the beginning because she has crippling social anxiety. After teaching her to speak, they need to get her a weapon, as every student in Kivotos need to carry a weapon around, for some reason. They turn to the engineering department at Millennium, where Aris is equipped with a 200 kilogram railgun, as her inhuman strength makes her the only one capable in the entire school of lifting it. Her strength does raise suspicions among the engineering department, obviously, who start to figure out that she isn't exactly human. Yuka hears of a new member in the game dev department and wants to evaluate if she has joined of her own free will or if she has been forced by the twins, just to save the club from closing. The passion that Aris shows for games that she has developed in the last few days convinces Yuka that she's a willing member of the club. However, she still wants to see results from them. Otherwise, she will shut the club down. So the twins and Sensei return once again to the ruins below Millennium to look for the G-Bible, this time with Aris and Yuzu tagging along. While in the ruins, they find a terminal containing a gbible.exe, so they download it to a portable gaming console, but it needs a password to be executed. Now, I'm no expert, but I don't think it's a good idea to execute exe files of dubious origin. That's how you get a virus. But I digress. To crack the password, they turn to Veritas, the hacker group at Millennium. Because, of course, there's a hacker group in the school for nerds. To crack it, however, they require a special tool that they created, called the Mirror. Unfortunately, it has been confiscated by Millennium Student Council for being illegal equipment. The contraband storage, where the mirror is being kept, is guarded by CNC, the Maid Club, which is actually a cover-up for Millennium's most elite combat unit, made up of 4 members, Akane, Asuna, Karin and leader Neru. Luckily for them, the leader of CNC is out on a mission, so that only leaves 3 members. The game dev department, Veritas and the engineering department team up for the heist. I'm surprised Sensei went along with it, but I guess this is already the second heist he partakes in. They have a big advantage. The engineering department were the ones who designed the security system for Millennium, so they use it against CNC and Seminar by activating the steel shutters that separate the various areas in the Seminar building, which is called the Millennium Tower, by the way. By separating their enemies, they buy enough time for the twins to reach the contraband storage and get the mirror. Now they only need to get back to Veritas, but that's when Neru, the leader and strongest student in the Maid Club, and probably in all of Millennium, returns. It seems like things are escalating when the Maid Club receives the order to retreat, directly from the president of the Millennium Student Council. Apparently, during the heist, she has been observing Aris fight, and is now satisfied with the data collected. Who knows what she's planning? The next day, Veritas, using the mirror, manages to crack the gbible.exe. The game dev club members execute the exe, and the program reveals that the big secret to making great video games is to love video games. No shit. I guess the people who made Concord didn't love games enough, or something. Finding out that there is nothing else to the G-Bible, the game dev department gets rightfully very discouraged, But eventually they decide to get back to work, to make together a game for the Millennium Prize. They work hard for days, and barely finish before the deadline. Now they have to wait 4 days, until the results are in. Suddenly, the club room gets attacked by the maid club. However, they are not there for revenge. Neru really loves to fight, and sensed that Aris isn't a normal student, and that she is much stronger than she appears to be, and so she wants to have a duel with her. She promises that if she loses, the game dev department will be forgiven for the heist they pulled off. Neru is really strong, so Aris figures that the only way to end the fight is by blowing up the floor with a railgun. So the duel ends in basically a truce, but Neru is satisfied and decides to leave them alone for the time being. 4 days later, the results of the Millennium Prize are in, and they won the consolation prize, which is good enough for Yuka, who allows the club to exist, and to receive a budget from now on. So, happy ending once again. New request for Sensei. This time it comes from Trinity. It is, together with Millennium and Genna, one of the 3 biggest schools. The theme of this one is European architecture, and I guess the Catholic Church, because, you know, the Trinity, and there are nuns, and students have angel wings. The request came directly from the Tea Party, Trinity's student council. Ho ho, the Tea Party, so British. Unlike in other schools where there is only one president, the Tea Party is made up of 3 members, who take turns at becoming the host, that is, at being the actual president of Trinity. The request came from the current host, Nagisa. The other 2 members are Mika and Seiya, who is nowhere to be seen. What Nagisa asks to Sensei is to take charge of the Makeup Work Club, a class comprised of 4 students with failing grades. These 4 students are Ifumi, yeah, the same Ifumi from the first arc, who skipped an exam to attend a live show of Peroro. I did tell you in the first episode that the Peroro lore is very important to the Blue Archive story, didn't I? Hanako, who gets often arrested for obscene acts in public places. Azusa, a transfer student who acts as if she was in a war zone. And Koharu, a new recruit of the Justice Task Force, basically Trinity's police force, who is failing because, well, she's dumb. Like, really dumb. The goal of the club is simple, to pass an exam. They are given 3 tries. If they fail all 3, they will get expelled from the school. Everyone but Ifumi fails the first exam, so to prepare for the second try, the Makeup Work Club retires to a week-long boot camp. Right before the boot camp starts, Nagisa explains to Sensei that among the club members there is a traitor that plans to interfere with the signing of the Eden Treaty, a pact of non-aggression between Trinity and Genna. This pact was initially proposed by the now missing General Student Council president. The day of the signing is getting close, and intelligence says that there is a traitor among the students of Trinity. For this reason, Nagisa decided to group every suspect in the Makeup Work Club. Nagisa hopes that Sensei will be able to discover who the traitor is, and if it becomes necessary, she will take measures to ensure that no one passes the exam, so that everyone in the club will get expelled. The boot camp starts, and the club members and Sensei move to an empty annex building. They will live and study together until the exam. The days go by with a succession of slice-of-life scenarios, and the members of the Makeup Work Club start to bond. At the same time, however, they start to notice some suspicious things about Azusa. She clearly knows some things about Trinity that a recently transferred student shouldn't normally know. and she has been seen leaving the annex building in the middle of the night. One day, without telling Nagisa, Mika pays a visit to Sensei. She is scheming something behind her back and offers Sensei a deal. She reveals that she knows the identity of the traitor, and it is indeed Azusa. But, unlike Nagisa, who wants to find the traitor to get rid of them, Mika wants Sensei to do the opposite and protect Azusa. Here's what Mika explains to Sensei. Trinity was created by the union of different factions. Initially enemies, these factions held a council and agreed to unite as one academy. This council is known as the First Council. Traces of those different factions still exist in modern Trinity, but they coexist in peace as a single academy. There was a single faction that refused to join the union, and that was Arius. After the First Council, the newly formed Trinity suppressed Arius, and most people think it stopped existing. There are, however, rumors that it still exists somewhere, where it is able to escape the watchful eye of Trinity. Even the General Student Council doesn't know where they operate from. Well, Azusa is a member of Arius, who infiltrated Trinity as a transfer student thanks to Mika's help. Mika hopes that Azusa will become a symbol of peace. She wants to reconcile with Arius and show them that they can be happy at Trinity. But now Nagisa got word of an intruder and is trying to find her at all costs. So Mika asks Sensei to protect Azusa and prevent her expulsion. Mika also reveals that Seiya, the third member of the Tea Party, who has yet to show up, has actually been killed by having her halo shattered. By the way, in Blue Archive, students are bulletproof, but they can be killed by destroying their halo. She was attacked by an unknown killer, and the case has been covered up, only the Tea Party knows. So yeah, there is a lot of political intrigue going on behind the simple initial setup of this arc. One day, the Makeup Work Club goes on a late night stroll in the district, together with Sensei. One thing led to another, and they end up helping Trinity's Justice Task Force to apprehend a group of terrorists, Genna's Gourmet Research Society, who entered Trinity to steal a tuna from the local aquarium. Don't worry about the details. Genna seems to have quite the collection of idiots. Once the troublemakers get captured, Sensei acts as a mediator between the two schools and takes on the job of handing them over to Genna's prefect team. This gives Sensei the opportunity to meet and talk with Hina, the prefect team president, and ask her her opinion on the Eden Treaty situation. Not only is she in favor of the treaty, she was the one who promoted it to Genna's student council. She hopes that the peace between the two academies will calm things down inside Genna, giving her the opportunity to retire from her position. Anyway, the day of the second test approaches. Everyone has been studying hard and doing better in the mock tests. The day before the official test, Sensei meets with Nagisa. They refuse to reveal to her who the traitor is. They want to believe in Azusa, because Sensei is a good adult, and they trust all of their students. No exceptions. Nagisa decides to take things into her own hands, and makes sure that everyone will fail the exam and get expelled. So, she made some last-minute changes to the second exam. The minimum number of points required to pass has been raised from 60 to 90. The location of the exam is a building in the Genna district, and the time of the exam has been set to 3 AM. If that wasn't enough, the Genna district that night is in complete chaos, because the Hot Springs department, yeah, that's a thing, is having an all-out war with the prefect team. So the Makeup Work Club must make their way through basically a war zone in the middle of the night just to be able to take the exam. Somehow they managed to get to the designated abandoned building in the Gen district and start the exam. But in the middle of it, an explosion causes the exam papers to get completely destroyed. So the exam is officially counted as a failure. Only one last chance remaining, and it is clear that Nagisa will stop at nothing to make sure that they fail. During the following week, everyone studies so hard that they manage to score above a 90 in the mock exam. But obviously Nagisa tries to make things complicated by having the location of the third exam be a building heavily guarded by the Justice Task Force, and she gave them the order to let no one in. Arius gets hold of the information that all of Trinity's forces that day will be placed guarding that one building, leaving Nagisa unprotected. So they call Azusa to a meeting and reveal that their plan is to infiltrate Trinity and kill Nagisa. Arius still harbors much resentment against Trinity since the time of the First Council. It's after receiving this information that Azusa decides to confess her true identity to the rest of the Makeup Work Club. She has grown too attached to her new friends and Trinity as a whole to accept the plan of Arius. So she plans to intercept their attack and protect Nagisa. The rest of the club offers their help. They manage to ambush the Arius assassins and defeat them, but they get reinforced by none other than Mika. Political intrigue, spies, double agents, twists. This is basically the Metal Gear Solid of Blue Archive arcs. Mika reveals that she wasn't being used by Arius. She was the true mastermind all along, who ordered Arius to execute the attack on Seiya, and now she plans on taking out Nagisa too. Once she has done that, she will be the only one left in control of the Tea Party, and she plans on uniting Trinity and Arius to destroy Gen. Because that's her motivation. She hates Gen and wants to stop the signing of the Eden Treaty at all costs. That's the reason she wanted to make peace with Arius from the very beginning. She wanted them as allies in her war against Gen. She also reveals that Azusa was in the Arius team that killed Seiya. This plot really feels like Metal Gear Solid. Mika's original plan didn't actually include the death of Seiya. She just wanted to get her kidnapped. But during the kidnapping, things took a turn for the worse, and she ended up dead. So, now things get complicated, because you see, Mika is really strong. But here comes the Sisterhood to the rescue. Another faction inside of Trinity that usually keeps to themselves, and doesn't get involved with the Tea Party's affairs. Also, they are nuns, with guns. Cool. Hanako asked for their help before the fight started, expecting things to get complicated. They take down Mika and arrest her. After the fight is over, it is revealed that Seiya isn't actually dead. She survived the attack and went into hiding to stay out of danger, until the people that tried to kill her were identified. Not even Mika knew that she survived. After the fighting is over, the only thing left to do is for the Makeup Work Club to take the third exam. After the events that transpired, they are allowed to take the exam without impediments. The results are in, and everyone passed. Happy ending once again. Yippee! Or is it? The arc isn't over yet. The day of the signing of the Eden Treaty approaches, and Arius prepares to make their next move. This arc begins with a flashback. It's the night Seiya was attacked. We see Azusa's perspective, who, as revealed previously by Mika, was in the team tasked with the assassination. She enters Seiya's room to complete the mission, and surprisingly Seiya says that she has been expecting her, because you see, she has special powers. She has prophetic dreams that allow her to see snippets of the future. She didn't run away, because she believes that the future she saw cannot be changed. Azusa has never killed anyone before, so once she's in front of her target, she hesitates. They end up talking for an entire hour. Seiya convinces Azusa that eliminating the Tea Party would only bring chaos in Kivotos. On the other hand, peace between Trinity and Gehenna through the Eden Treaty would calm things down and allow the Tea Party to address Arius' problems and help them. So, they decide together to fake Seiya's death. Azusa blows up Seiya's room to trick both Arius and the rest of Trinity into thinking that Seiya had been killed, while in reality she went into hiding. It needs to be clarified that Azusa was a simple foot soldier and wasn't aware that Mika was involved in the plan. So she was also surprised when Mika revealed herself as an ally of Arius at the end of the previous arc. Back to present day. After the failed attack on Nagisa, which ended with the arrest of Mika, the Sisterhood decides to change their non-interventionist approach to Trinity's internal politics and become more proactive. They allow Azusa to register as an official Trinity student, since she risked her life to protect Nagisa and opposed Arius. Speaking of Nagisa, she personally apologized to the other members of the Makeup Work Club for dragging them into such a messy situation and being so hostile towards them during the previous arc. She also goes to visit Mika, who is currently being incarcerated. Mika has already confessed during interrogations that she has been working with Squad, a special unit of Arius, of which Azusa was also a member. But Nagisa isn't there to get other information out of Mika. She just wants to know why. Why a friend who she trusted would try to kill Seiya and her. Mika's answer is very simple. She hates Gehenna so much that she was willing to kill a friend to stop the Eden Treaty. But some aren't convinced by this explanation, and Hanako has already figured out what happened. Mika only intended to get Seiya kidnapped. She arranged the kidnapping with Arius, but they secretly had other plans, and were only using Mika to get to Seiya and kill her. After Seiya tricked everyone into thinking that she was dead, Mika felt complicit in her murder, and that she could no longer turn back. Despair overwhelmed her, and she decided to go along with Arius' plan, convincing herself that this was a necessary sacrifice to destroy Gehenna, an attempt to rationalize the death of her friend in her mind. Eventually, the long-awaited day of the signing of the Eden Treaty arrives. The ceremony is being held in the Cathedral of Communion, the same cathedral in which the first council that unified Trinity took place a long time ago. The same day, in an unspecified cafe, the Makeup Work Club is having a farewell party before disbanding. Back at the cathedral, tensions are high. Sensei is obviously there. Trinity deploys the Justice Task Force and the Sisterhood as security, while Gehenna sends in the Prefect team. The Pandemonium Society, which is Gehenna's student council, arrives in the new blimp, because they like to show off. And Nagisa of the Tea Party also arrives at the ceremony. Every major player is there, and Arius is ready to make their first move. They send in the unit simply called Squad. Their leader is Saori, and as you can see, she wears a cool mask. Azusa gets the feeling that something bad is about to happen, and she leaves the cafe just in time to hear the sound of a cruise missile flying over the skies of Trinity, directed towards the cathedral. It's immediately complete chaos. The explosion makes the cathedral collapse. Arius troops start emerging from the catacomb system below. Their first objective is to take out the strongest students of Trinity and Gehenna. The Pandemonium Society's blimp goes down in flames. A mysterious new enemy also makes an appearance and starts attacking students. Hundreds of ghostly nuns with gas masks. That's a character design of all times. But who are they? The Saint Justina Council, the guardians of the commandments, the predecessors of the modern sisterhood, who oversaw the first council in which Trinity was unified. And where did they come from? Taking advantage of the chaos, Arius signed the treaty on behalf of Trinity. This made them the new Eden Treaty organization, which gives them the right to summon the Saint Justina Council to suppress whoever opposes them. The idea was given to them by this marionette-looking dude called Maestro. Look at that, an Italian name. A member of Gematria, just like Blacksuit from the first arc. Some students decide that the priority should be to get Sensei out of there. Hina herself takes on the role of escorting them. She almost gets Sensei to safety when Squad reaches them, and Saori shoots Sensei despite Hina's best efforts to protect them. Thankfully, an ambulance manages to get Hina and a badly injured Sensei out of there. Sensei passes out, and in their dreams meets Seiya. Azusa reaches the firefight and tries to take down Saori all on her own. But in a direct attack she is no match for her, and is forced to retreat. In the meantime, some people misinterpret the attack on the cathedral. In both Gehenna and Trinity, some people think the other academy is responsible for the attack, and fights break out between students of the two academies. So confusion spreads all throughout the two districts, and Arius wants to take advantage of the situation to take control of Trinity by using the Saint Justina Council. Back at Trinity campus, the situation is completely out of control. The leaders of the various factions have gone missing in the chaos back at the cathedral. No one is sure what is going on. In the meantime, the ambulance carrying Sensei arrives, and they are able to receive medical treatment. The night begins to set in as the general panic continues, and Arius prepares to invade Trinity. In the meantime, Hifumi receives a message with some coordinates. She goes there and finds Azusa. She reveals that she is planning on killing Saori, all on her own, to stop Arius' plan. She thanks Hifumi for being her friend, and for all the fun memories they made together. There is nothing Hifumi can say to convince her to stay, and Azusa disappears into the night. Later, Squad gets ambushed by Azusa. She knows that she can't win a head-on fight, so she tries to take them by surprise. But Saori is one step ahead. After all, she's the one who taught Azusa how to fight, so she knows all her tricks and manages to defeat her. She believes Azusa lacks the determination necessary to kill another human being, but she's wrong. Azusa repurposed the Halo-destroying bomb meant to kill Seiya, and stuffed it in a plushie. The moment Saori picks it up, it explodes, gravely injuring her and Hime, another member of Squad. Enough that they have to postpone the attack on Trinity, and retreat back to the cathedral, where in the meantime things have calmed down a little bit. Both Trinity and Gehenna troops have retreated from the area, which is now under Arius' control. Back to Sensei. They have been talking with Seiya in their dreams. She has been staying in a sort of comatose state, and observing the situation unfold from her dreams using her powers. She thinks that everything is lost, and there is no point in fighting anymore. She invites Sensei to stay with her. But it's Sensei we are talking about. They don't even care if their body hasn't recovered yet. There are students in need of guidance. They can't afford to stay in Dreamland. So, they wake up in Trinity Infirmary. The first thing Sensei does is take control of the situation. They restore order in both Trinity and Gehenna. They start gathering people to swing back at Arius before Azusa tries to fight them all on her own again. They go to look for Hina, who disappeared after Sensei got shot, because she feels like she failed to meet everyone's expectations, and now she's very sad. Oh, poor Hina, but Sensei convinces her to rejoin the fight. Sensei succeeds in unifying for the first time Trinity and Gehenna to fight a common enemy, and their combined forces arrive at the cathedral just in time to stop Azusa from fighting Squad on her own. Ifumi even called her friends from Abydos to join the fight. Everyone is here. This is basically the Avengers of Blue Archive arcs. Even with all the troops Sensei brought, the Saint Justina Council is still a dangerous opponent. So Sensei pulls a sneaky on Squad. They declare themselves to be the true Eden Treaty organization. And technically it's in their right to do so, as the Eden Treaty was initially supposed to be mediated by the General Student Council President, and Shale is directly connected to her. So basically Sensei found a small loophole in the contract. This sends all the ghosts into a state of confusion, as they aren't sure who they are supposed to fight for anymore. Without them, Squad is left at a big disadvantage, and they have to retreat back to the catacombs below the destroyed cathedral, where Azusa has a final duel with Saori, and this time she wins. Having been defeated, Squad must run away. They can't go back to Arius, because they would be executed for failing their mission, so they must go into hiding. For the time being, peace returns to Kivotos, and while the Eden Treaty didn't go through, the relationship between Trinity and Gehenna has been improved by fighting side by side. Seiya finally decides to wake up and return to Trinity, and the Makeup War Club members meet once again for some supplementary lessons, because their grades have been going down again. At the very least, they don't have to worry about getting expelled this time around. I think it's time to introduce all the members of Squad, as they are the protagonists of this arc. Obviously there's the leader Saori, Atsuko, also called Ime. She has royal blood, because she descends from the original student council of Arius. She was the one who signed the treaty to take control of the Saint Justina Council. Hiyori. She has low self-esteem and is very pessimistic. Also, she has a nice tummy. And Misaki. She is very emo and wants to die. They have been on the run from the rest of Arius for days and are exhausted. They get cornered, and Hime offers to surrender herself to the ruler of Arius, which everyone refers to as Madame, if the rest of Squad will be spared. She is taken away, but shortly after Madame orders to kill the rest of Squad anyway. Back at Trinity, a hearing has been scheduled for Mika to discuss her crimes. Obviously, she's in a very bad position and risks expulsion. Her public reputation is very negative. There have been protests outside her prison cell, and her private quarters have been vandalized. She is basically enemy number one at Trinity at this point. But Mika doesn't even try to defend herself. She doesn't even plan to attend the hearing. She feels guilty for what she has done, and for betraying her friend's trust. She doesn't wish to excuse her own actions, but now that she knows that Seiya only faked her own death, she wants to at least apologize to her. But Seiya has been really hard to reach ever since she came back to Trinity, so Sensei decides to pay a visit to her to see what's going on. She says that she had a vision that terrified her. She saw the complete destruction of Kivotos. To get answers, she is now spending most of her time lucid dreaming, to the point that she is having problems telling reality from dream, and her health has deteriorated. Sensei urges her to stop, and tells her that Mika wishes to apologize, and she should talk with her. Shortly after, Seiya falls asleep, while waiting for a guard to escort Mika to her room, so they could talk. In her dream, she is able to observe a meeting between the members of Gematria. Black Suit and the marionette-looking dude called Maestro are there, together with two other members. One is called Golconde, and the other Beatrice, who is the same woman the area students call Madame. So yeah, a member of Gematria controls the Arius district, and is the actual mastermind behind the entire Eden Treaty arc. Her interest in the Eden Treaty was mostly limited to acquiring the power of the Saint Justina Council, and she used the hatred area students had for Trinity and Gaena to her advantage. Now that that entire operation has failed, she is planning a mysterious ritual. When Seiya wakes up, she is feeling extremely ill, and when Mika arrives to her room, Seiya starts convulsing and throwing up blood. In the meantime, Sensei receives an anonymous message. He goes at the spot mentioned in the message, and there they find Saori of Squad, who kneels before them and asks for their help to save Atsuko. With her friend who is about to be sacrificed and no one else to turn to, she hopes Sensei will help her. She assumes that after all the bad things she has done, Sensei won't trust her, so she gives them a detonator connected to a bomb that she is carrying, placing her life in their hands. But Sensei breaks the detonator and swears to save Atsuko. In the meantime, Mika has been brought back to her cell, and she's breaking. Seeing Seiya in that state was too much for her. She was starting to believe that she had a second chance, but now everything seems to be going wrong, and she starts to blame Saori for this. Mika just wanted to reunite Trinity and Aries, and Saori took advantage of her to try to kill Seiya, and everything spiraled out of control from there. So now she starts to wish for revenge. She easily breaks the prison wall with her bare hands, picks up her weapon and goes out looking for Saori. Sensei and Saori go to pick up Hiyori and Misaki, who was about to unalive herself by jumping off a bridge. This girl got some serious issues. And head for the Arius district. They need to reach the Arius Basilica before dawn, which is when a ritual in which Madame will sacrifice Atsuko will take place. They need to get through a complex system of catacombs, which is constantly shifting to get to the district. This is the reason it managed to stay hidden for so long. But at the entrance to the catacombs, they find Mika waiting for them. She is extremely strong. Not even the three of them together can take her down. So they keep her at bay, and at the first opportunity they run away in the catacombs. But Mika is determined to get her revenge, and chases after them. Later Squad makes it out of the catacombs. Before going further in the Arius district, they decide to rest for a moment, because Saori has a fever. While she rests, Sensei falls asleep, and Seiya communicates with them. She's stuck between dream and reality, and she can't break free. She tells Sensei that the goal of Beatrice is to summon some kind of Lovecraftian entity to Kivotos called Chroma, which will result in her vision coming true. After waking up, Sensei learns a bit of lore about the Arius district. Apparently Beatrice took control a while ago, After a civil war reduced the entire district to rubble, she transformed the students into her own army and taught them that the source of all their problems were Trinity and Gehenna. Anyone who opposed her was punished. After Saori recovers, they head for the old school building, which is connected to the basilica through an underground tunnel. In the meantime, Mika also arrives in Aries through a different exit to the catacombs. While on their way to the old school building, Squad learns that Beatrice has acquired the use of the Saint Justina Council for herself. Not sure how she did that, it's not really explained in detail. I just know that there are more ghost nuns with gas masks running around now. Squad reaches the underground tunnel, when suddenly the ceiling collapses and Saori gets separated from Sensei and her teammates. It was an ambush by Mika, who wanted to create a situation in which she could 1v1 Saori. Their duel is completely one-sided. Not only is Saori weaker than Mika, she is also exhausted and ill. So she is utterly defeated. Before being executed, she expresses regret. She feels sorry for using Azusa for her plans, and hopes that she will find happiness in Trinity. She also apologizes to Mika. She is aware that her actions have caused so much pain to everyone around her. In the end, Mika can't bring herself to kill Saori. She doesn't want to get revenge anymore. She just wants to be happy. Sensei reunites with Saori and Mika and promises that they will do their best to make sure she gets a second chance. It's almost sunrise, and the ritual is about to begin. Beatrice sends the Saint Justina Council after Squad, and Mika volunteers to hold them back, all on her own, while the others rescue Atsuko. They get to the basilica and fight against Beatrice, who can turn into this flower monster looking thing, while Mika uses all her strength to hold back an entire army, all on her own, while an old gramophone fills the air with a song of mercy. No reinforcement arrive for Beatrice, who is defeated, and Atsuko is saved just in time. Saori feels responsible for the events up to this point, and decides to leave her fate up to Sensei, who decides to let all members of Squad go, hoping that they will follow their dreams and be happy now that they are free from Beatrice's control, who by the way escaped with the help of Gematria after the battle was over. After talking with Squad, Sensei goes to find Mika, who is still fighting and in pretty bad shape. Suddenly, Trinity's forces start pouring into the Aries district. You see, Seiya managed to wake up in the meantime, thanks to the help of a mysterious fox girl that appeared in her dream. Don't worry about the details, it will be explained later in the story. And she told Nagisa everything that was going on. After the district has been secured, Mika finally has the opportunity to speak to Seiya and Nagisa, and apologize to them for her mistakes. They promise to help her at the hearing, so that at the very least she won't get expelled. As for Squad, they split up, with Saori going her own way. A bittersweet ending, which leaves us with a cliffhanger. Seiya reveals that the price she had to pay to awake was to give up her prophetic abilities. And we are left with her final vision, Shiroko destroying the Shittim chest. Sensei goes to the General Student Council's headquarters to talk about Shale's recent activities with Rin, who is taking over for the still missing president. While there, they get informed of a certain ongoing situation involving the SRT Academy, which stands for a Special Response Team. An elite academy of specially trained students who answer directly to the General Student Council president. But now that she has gone missing, the council decided that there is no reason for the academy to exist anymore, and is planning to shut it down, and to transfer all of its students to Valkyrie, the police school of Kivotos, which keeps the peace in the DU district. A shared district which isn't owned by any academy, and where the General Student Council's headquarters and Chale are located. To protest the closure of the school, 4 SRT students have set up camp in a public park. Valkyrie is trying to make them leave, but so far they had no success, because the SRT students are very well trained and armed with heavy weaponry. Sensei heads to the park and helps Kanna, the director of the Public Peace Bureau branch of Valkyrie, to arrest the 4 SRT students, who are later brought back to the police station for interrogation. They are the Rabbit Squad. The 4 members are Saki. She's a bit arrogant, very proud of being a member of SRT, and she has a bit of a tsundere type of personality. Moe. She really likes explosives, and she's the tech expert of the team. Miyu. She's the sniper. She has a hard time making friends and clearly suffers from depression and should get treatment. And finally Miyako, the team leader. She is the responsible one and is very dedicated to upholding justice in Kivotos. That's why she entered SRT. All 4 of them are very against the idea of transferring to Valkyrie and want to keep protesting the closure of the school. Sensei feels bad for them and decides to help them. They speak with Kaya, a member of the General Student Council Administration Board. She's in charge of the defense office. The students of Valkyrie are under her command, however SRT is not. She explains that it was specifically created as an extrajudicial special task force that only answered to the president, and is formed of the very best and armed with state-of-the-art equipment. Now that the president has disappeared, no one oversees SRT anymore, and it was decided to shut it down. When this was decided, Fox Squad, the strongest squad in all of SRT, went rogue and disappeared, and the Rabbit Squad started their protest in the park. Kaya takes a hands-off approach and invites Sensei to decide the fate of the Rabbit Squad for themselves. So, for the time being, the 4 students are released from prison, and Sensei allows them to resume their protest, hoping to garner their trust, so that they may lead them to a peaceful solution that satisfies everyone in the future. To win their trust, Sensei helps them with a few issues that they have to face while living in a public park. Issue number 1. Food. Obviously there's no food in a park, and they have no money to buy provisions. So Sensei sets up a deal with the local supermarket, which is happy to donate to the Rabbit Squad all of their expired bentos, instead of throwing them in the garbage. Food problem solved. Issue number 2. They stink, because they haven't taken a bath in days. Yeah, as you can tell, the stakes are very high in this arc. And thus begins Operation Carrot. Haha, you get it? Because they are the Rabbit Squad, and rabbits eat carrots. At night they infiltrate the harbor to take a couple of drum barrels. The mission is a success, and they use the barrels to take a bath in the middle of the park. Delicious rabbit soup. Issue number 3. The local hobos. A group of homeless robots, are angry because they were the ones eating the expired bentos before the Rabbit Squad made a deal with the supermarket. They are the Pursuers of Non-Possessive Happiness, a group of robot hobo hippies, led by a robot named Descartes. Now, let me pause for a second and ask a simple question. They are angry because the expired bentos they used to eat are now going to the Rabbit Squad. But How? They are robots. How do they even eat? Do they even need to? How do robots in the Blue Archive universe even work? But I digress. Sensei gets abducted by the Scates, and the Rabbit Squad rescues them. Even though at this point they still don't care too much about Sensei. They are more interested in looting their base than saving Sensei. These poor hobos stand no chance against a specially trained unit and are easily defeated. Issue number 4. The Rain. The rainy season arrives, and it really tests the Rabbit Squad determination. All their equipment goes underwater, but with Sensei's help they clean the spillways and save the camp. After facing these challenges together, the Rabbit Squad finally starts to trust Sensei. Some days later, Sensei learns that apparently Kaiser Construction, the same evil corporation from the first arc of the story, is planning to renovate the district where the park is located, Kozagi District, to build a new subway station with a shopping mall on top of it. The Rabbit Squad decides to barter some of their water-damaged weapons to buy new ones. They contact Kaiser Industries, the weapon manufacturer branch of Kaiser. But surprisingly, they say that their weapons are completely out of stock. Suddenly, the Scates runs to their camp and says that Valkyrie has been chasing away all the hobos from the district using very high specs weapons, and the bullet marks left seem to point to a type of ammunition only Kaiser sells. So they start connecting the dots and understand what's going on. The reason Kaiser weapons were out of stock is because they all went to Valkyrie, which is using them to chase away all the homeless people of Kozagi District, so that Kaiser can build the planned subway and mall center. This would be illegal, as Kaiser is basically using the police as mercenaries to carry out their own interests in exchange for weapons. Eventually, Valkyrie will come to chase away the Rabbit Squad too, so they decide to expose their plan before that happens. However, they have no concrete proof to frame them, and so begins Operation Clover. Haha, you get it, because they are rabbits, and rabbits eat clover? It consists of infiltrating Valkyrie to acquire their transaction records. After all, this is exactly why SRT exists. A special force with extrajudicial power that can even carry out an investigation into the police by using all means necessary. So they enter Valkyrie in the middle of the night, undetected by hacking the security cameras and alarms. They reach the archive room, they get the transaction records, and indeed it appears the police has been receiving free weapons from Kaiser to clean up Kozagi District. With their objective completed, it's time to get back to camp, but they remain stuck in the vault. So they are forced to trigger the alarm and have some Valkyrie students come and open it to check what's going on. The moment the vault door gets opened from the outside, they start fighting their way up to the rooftop for extraction with a helicopter, because apparently they have a helicopter, despite living as hobos in a public park. Don't worry about it. Probably some equipment that they kept from the SRT school. On the roof they are confronted by Director Kanna. Miyako shows her that they are already in possession of the transaction logs, evidence of the corruption at Valkyrie. Kanna tries to justify her actions, but ultimately accepts defeat. While the helicopter arrives, a Rabbit Squad flies back to the camp. The evidence is entrusted to Sensei, who goes to the media. The next morning, the entrance to Valkyrie is flooded with journalists, and all of Kivotos learns of the corruption in the police force, and the General Student Council starts an investigation. So, mission success. In the epilogue, it's revealed that Kaya, the Secretary of Defense, was behind the deal with Kaiser. Not only that, but she's also working with the most elite unit of SRT, the Fox Squad. And apparently she's planning to overthrow the General Student Council. To be continued. We are back at Millennium. We see a secret meeting between Himari, the best hacker in all of Kivotos, and Rio, the elusive president of Seminar, Millennium Student Council. A while has passed since the night the game development department stole the mirror from the contraband storage, and Rio and Himari discussed the data acquired on Aris on that night. They identify her true nature as being that of an ancient artifact, the Princess of the Nameless Gods, worshipped by an ancient cult that lived in Kivotos a long time ago, before Kivotos even existed. They were called the Nameless Priests. While Himari doesn't see her as a threat, Rio sees Aris as a potential weapon of mass destruction. Fearing that Himari will interfere with her future plans, Rio has her arrested by the mysterious fifth member of CNC. One day later, Sensei is spending time with the game dev department, playing games with them and helping with club activities. Apparently, Yuzu is so good at games, she can even come up with strategies to win against cheaters. This is called foreshadowing. Later on that day, Sensei goes for a walk around Millennium with Aris, and it becomes clear to them how well she integrated into her new environment. Everyone around the district seems happy to see her, even the members of CNC. And, most surprisingly, she became friends with Neru, with whom she often plays video games. One day, Sensei and the game dev club are contacted by Veritas. They found some strange, unidentified robots on the outskirts of Millennium, and no matter what they do, they can't turn them on. When Aris gets near them, they suddenly reactivate. Her eyes turn pink, and her personality completely changes. Out of nowhere, Aris and the robots open fire on Veritas and her clubmates. Veritas' clubroom is completely destroyed, and only CNC's sudden intervention can stop them. Everyone makes it out fine, except for Momoi, who is badly injured and passes out. Aris goes back to her old self, and, realizing what she has done to her friend, she locks herself in the game dev clubroom and refuses to leave. She's afraid she will lose control again and hurt someone else. Sensei tries to talk to her, when suddenly Rio shows up. She starts explaining to Sensei the true nature of Aris, basically a dangerous ancient creation capable of controlling those weird robots Veritas found, which came from the ruins below Millennium, where supposedly an entire army of them is waiting for orders. Rio is convinced that Aris is a threat to Kivotos and the entire world, and wants to destroy her, so she orders Neru to carry Aris away, but she refuses. At this point she sees her as her friend, and doesn't want to be an accomplice in her destruction. Rio is forced to call upon the secret fifth member of CNC to restrain Neru. She is revealed to be named Toki, and she is fast, so fast in fact that Neru is taken aback, and Toki manages to restrain her. In the end, Aris decides to not fight back. Rio convinces her that she's a danger to everyone around her, and she will end up hurting her friends if she stays with them. So Aris says her goodbyes and is taken away. Everyone is really depressed and doesn't know what they should do. That's when Momoi wakes up. The others explain to her what happened while she was knocked out. As expected of Momoi, she doesn't care one bit if Aris was the one that injured her. She still sees her as a friend and is determined to save her. Everyone agrees, even the other members of Millennium Student Council think that Rio went too far, and are willing to help locate where Aris was taken. They notice that there is a discrepancy in the use of Millennium's funds, and when looking into it, they find out that Rio secretly built an entire fortress city called Eridu. I have no idea how you even built an entire city without anyone finding out. Like, forget about all the money that it would even take. Whatever. Apparently Rio is very paranoid. She thinks the end is coming, and instead of an atomic shelter, she built an entire fortress city. They also discover a secret train route that was used to move the materials necessary to build the entire thing, and they use that to reach it. Participating in the Aris rescue mission are Sensei, the game dev department, CNC, the engineering department, who all go there in person, while Veritas and the rest of Seminar assist them remotely. Here's the strategy. CNC acts as bait to draw out the biggest obstacle, Toki, while the rest of the rescue party fights the automated defenses of the city to clear the way to the central tower, where Aris and Rio are. So, CNC enters Eridu guns blazing, and, as planned, Toki is immediately dispatched to stop them. While the fight is ongoing, Himari, with the help of her clubmate Emi, escapes from her cell. Meanwhile, Toki is having a very hard time fighting all of the other members of CNC on her own, and is forced to retreat back to the central tower of Eridu. In the meantime, the others take out Rio's drone army and regroup with CNC in front of the tower, where the final confrontation with Toki awaits. Rio is forced to deploy her ultimate weapon, a power suit, and I mean, look at it. This looks cool. But not only does it look cool, it is very strong. Its speed and calculation functions allow Toki to easily avoid enemies' attacks. Neru engages Toki in a 1v1 battle, moving the fight to the rooftops, hoping that fighting in the air will reduce the suit's effectiveness at evading attacks. But not even dropping it from the top of a building is enough to inflict enough damage. While on the other hand, Neru sustains heavy injuries. When it becomes apparent that not even the top fighter in Millennium is enough to win against Toki using the power suit, the group is forced to retreat and think of a plan. Since Yuzu is so good at dealing with cheaters in video games, she comes up with a strategy to beat Toki. Yeah, I'm sure all the time you spent playing video games actually will become useful. Anyway, Yuzu notices that the only moment in which Neru's attacks landed was an instant during the fall from the building. She hypothesized that the suit was using its computational power to contrast the fall instead of analyzing Neru's attacks, and so for an instant it couldn't dodge the attacks. So here's what they decide to do. With a highly coordinated attack, the four members of CNC move the fight inside the main tower. There they force Toki inside an elevator, which Veritas hacks to operate at a higher speed than normal. Their hypothesis is that the gravity caused by the elevator will paralyze the suit's evasion system. Their theory proves correct, and Neru finishes off Toki, while the suit is not able to dodge her attacks. Sensei and the members of the game dev club reach the control room, where Ryo admits defeat. She tries to justify herself by saying that she never had any malicious intent. In her eyes, she was just trying to protect everyone. They reach Aris in the next room, when suddenly the entire city gets hacked, and the second personality inside of Aris resurfaces. She identifies herself as Ki. So basically, when she has blue eyes, she's Aris. When she has pink eyes, she's Ki. Pretty simple stuff. She calls herself that because she is the key to the throne Aris must occupy, as the princess of the nameless priests. And she starts summoning to Eridu her followers, the army of robots from below Millennium, while she starts taking control of all the resources the highly technological city has to offer, which is apparently 10,000 exabytes of data. That's a few gigabytes. Her objective is to build the Ark. Apparently she wants to warp the city into a new concept called the Ark, which will completely destroy Kivotos, but at the same time all mysteries will be archived for the first time. What does that mean? It's not entirely clear at this point in the story. The Ark will be relevant again later. For now, know that we are entering a cosmic horror levels of threat here. To stop her from taking control of the city, Summoner shuts down the power in all of Eridu. But the army of robots is still converging on the tower. Himari arrives at the control room. She suggests that the way to stop Ki is to make the Aris personality resurface. And to do that, Sensei and the game dev club should enter her mind using diving equipment, which allows them to enter her mental space. Think of the movie Inception, something like that. If you are thinking, wow, this is out of left field, I didn't know there was such a technology in Blue Archive. Yeah, it isn't really established beforehand, but I guess there are robots that can eat bentos in this universe, so it isn't that implausible. So, the game dev club and Sensei enters Aris's mind, and they find themselves in the same room they met her for the first time. There they find both Aris and Ki. Aris is still afraid that if she goes back she will end up hurting her friends, like she did before. She has accepted that she's a dangerous weapon. In video game terms, she's not the hero of her story, but the final boss. But her friends convince her that her true nature doesn't have to define what she is, and she is free to become whoever she wants to be. She can be the hero if she wants. So she makes the decision to go back and blows away the Ki personality. After this incident, the city of Eridu is shut down, and Ryo resigns from her position as president of Millennium and disappears. With her boss gone, Toki tries to fit in with the rest of CNC, with mixed results, and the game dev club can go back to their happy daily life. But has the Ki personality fully disappeared, or does she remain dormant within Aris? Ooh, the mysteries. This is the biggest arc so far in the story, the culmination of the events so far, and it involves all the characters met in the previous arcs. It's basically the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame of Blue Archive. It's long, it's a bit complicated, it's Volume F, where all miracles begin, and I will do my best to summarize it for you. It starts by showing us the meeting between Seiya and the mysterious fox girl that happened back during the Eden Treaty arc. She introduces herself as the Prophet Kuzunoa, and she talks to Seiya about the Chroma, the entity that Madame was trying to summon into Kivotos. It's not a physical being, but rather a force that distorts both the body and the soul of whoever comes across it. Luckily for Seiya, she didn't come into full contact with the chroma. She simply took a peek during the ritual performed by Madame, which was still enough to inflict a bit of damage to her essence. To wake up safely, Kuzuno explains, Seiya must sacrifice the piece of her essence that was infected by the chroma, which is Seiya's ability to see the future. And so we finally know how Seiya lost her prophetic abilities. In the present, we see a meeting between the members of Gematria, who are talking about the research into the legacy of the Nameless Priests, the masters of the world, before Kivotos existed. They have disappeared, but some of their highly technological artifacts remain in Kivotos, like Aris, for example. During the previous arc, Gematria was able to observe the creation of the Ark, which Ki tried to build using the city of Eridu, before Sensei and the Game Dev Club stopped her from completing it. But now the research into Kivotos' mysteries has been put in danger by Madame, or Beatrice, because without consulting the other members, she tried to get into contact with the Chroma, an entity which even Gematria doesn't fully understand. At least the ritual was stopped by Sensei, and the Chroma couldn't find Kivotos, right? Well, no, because Beatrice reveals that during the unfinished ritual, she intentionally informed the Chroma of the existence of Kivotos. And now it is coming to destroy the world. It is only a matter of time. We then see Seiya reveal to Sensei the last vision she had, before losing her powers. The one in which Shiroko not only shot and destroyed the Shittim chest, but also shot Sensei. She still doesn't know what the vision means, but she thinks it's related to her other vision, the one about the destruction of Kivotos. Sensei decides to talk about the prophecy with Rin of the General Student Council. Despite no concrete proof, Rin knows that Sensei is trustworthy and decides to take the warning seriously. We then see what is going on around Kivotos. Kaiser finally found whatever they were looking for in the Abydos Desert, which was a plot point in the Forclosure Task Force arc. Kaiser's soldiers start moving through the district, and the task force decides to monitor them from a distance for the time being. The game dev department is working on a new project. Aris has been examined, and no one in Millennium has the technology necessary to determine if Ki, or K, as they have decided to call her, is still inside her. In the meantime, Himari is going through all the data that Ryo, the president of Millennium, left before disappearing. Toki decides to work for Himari, since she's having a hard time fitting in with the rest of CNC. In Trinity, the trial on Mika has ended. For her actions during the Eden Treaty arc, she lost her privileges as a member of the Tea Party. But with Nagisa and Seiya's help, she avoided getting expelled from the school. As for the Makeup Work Club, they are trying to get their hands on a Perorozilla plushie, or something. In one way or another, Peroro always comes up in the Blue Archive story. And finally, the Rabbit Squad is, surviving. Good for them. Back to Gematria, the other three members are surprised by Madame's revelation. They are in Kivotos to research its mysteries. They don't desire its destruction. They see her actions as a betrayal. And so they cast her into the Shadow Realm or something? I assume she's dead, because she hasn't really appeared in the story to this day. Meanwhile, Rin has a meeting with two other members of the General Student Council, Momoka and Ayumu. 6 messes with high energy have been detected around Kivotos, one of them right on top of Sanctum Tower, where the General Student Council is located. But looking up at the sky, nothing is visible. Whatever these messes are, they are not visible to the naked eye, at least for now. Rin, taking to heart what Sensei told her earlier, initiates the emergency protocol and calls for a meeting with the representatives of the schools in Kivotos. However, some think that taking such drastic measures with so little proof is an abuse of power. For example, the Chief of Finance, Aoi, who is skeptical of Rin's intentions. The invitation to the emergency meeting is sent out to all the academies. The representatives of the schools in Kivotos don't have much faith in the current General Student Council ever since the president disappeared, but are willing to attend the meeting as long as Sensei is present. A Valkyrie helicopter is sent to Shale to pick up Sensei, but it turns out that they were disguised Kaiser soldiers. Here's what's really going on. Kaya, the Minister of Defense, is using the situation to carry out her plan of taking control of the General Student Council. She hopes that without Sensei, the emergency meeting will be a failure, and the other members of the council will vote to remove Rin from her position, giving Kaya the opportunity to take control. To abduct Sensei, she once again allies herself with Kaiser. But what she didn't calculate was that Kaiser would betray her once Sensei was in their hands, so that they could take control of the city for themselves. In the meantime, back in Abydos, the task force is getting ready to go to the emergency meeting. They are waiting for Shiroko to arrive. Suddenly, the big moment arrives. The Chroma makes contact with Kivotos, and a mysterious figure appears in front of Shiroko, and she's taken away. Sensei regains their senses in a prison cell guarded by Kaiser soldiers. And guess who comes to rescue them? Kanna of Valkyrie. She explains to Sensei what happened while they were unconscious. The emergency meeting took place, and it was a disaster. With Shiroko's disappearance, Abydos didn't attend. Millennium also didn't show up, because their president Rio has also disappeared after the events of the previous arc, and without Sensei's mediation, the remaining academies were not willing to cooperate. After this, Rin got accused by the other members of the council of being the mastermind behind the disappearance of Sensei, and was removed from her position of acting president. Kaiser took the opportunity to occupy Sanctum Tower and fill the power vacuum. They disbanded the General Student Council and declared martial law over the DU district. Transportation and communication got cut off, and the Valkyrie students, with no one left to issue orders, are on standby. Kanna knew where Sensei was because they were being detained in a Valkyrie-owned building, which Kaiser occupied. But she got badly injured while rescuing Sensei. She entrusts them to two subordinates, Kirino and Fubuki, and tells them to go on without her. She is trying to redeem herself and do the right thing, after being exposed as one of the corrupt cops during the Rabbit Squad's arc. Sensei refuses to leave her behind and asks Arona to contact any nearby student who could help, even though the communication network is down in the entire district. Arona manages to establish a connection with the nearby Rabbit Squad, which runs to the rescue. With their help, Sensei escapes the building and starts organizing an operation to recapture the Chalet building, where Kaiser took Rin, and where the crafting chamber is located, which is a device which allows the owner of the shittim chest to gain control of Sanctum Tower, which Sensei used way back in the prologue to give control of the city to Rin after the disappearance of the president, and which Kaiser now wants. But the rabbit squad and a few cops aren't enough, so Sensei recruits the other Valkyrie students who were left without a chain of command after Kaiser took the district. Sensei and their small army storm the chalet building, they free Rin and recapture the crafting chamber. The communication network is restored, and the president of Kaiser orders his troops to retreat for the moment. Meanwhile, Kaya, the Minister of Defense, who Kaiser imprisoned after they betrayed her, is rescued by the Fox Squad, which is still working for her. While all of this is going on, the three remaining members of Gematria are discussing the arrival of the Chroma, when suddenly, out of nowhere, Shiroko appears in their base, looking very different from usual, and confronts Blacksuit, who refers to her new form, which she took after making contact with the Chroma, as the God of Death. Sensei gets back to their office, and suddenly the sky turns red, and the 6 masses that were observed over Kivotos materialize. Sensei tells Arona to contact every student in Kivotos, to warn them about the impending crisis. The big battle between a united Kivotos and the mysterious guide of Chroma has started. The 6 mysterious masses are gigantic towers that fall to the ground from the red sky, one of which in the middle of Kivotos, destroying Sanctum Tower. Sensei goes on the roof of the chalet building to observe the situation, and finds a badly injured Blacksuit. He says that Gematria is no more. He says that Shiroko has encountered the Chroma and has turned into the God of Death, that will lead the world to its end. To do that, she entered Gematria's hideout and stole all their research on the mysteries and legends of Kivotos. And now the Chroma will use the 6 towers to bring them to life and destroy everything. He tells Sensei that the true enemy is not the Chroma itself, but rather the one who guides it, the mysterious Frenapates? Frenapates. Suddenly, beings from Kivotos' mysteries and legends appear where the 6 towers fell, and start attacking everyone in sight. For the time being, Sensei asks the students to evacuate, and get as far away from the towers as they can. We see a flashback, the first time Hoshino and Nonomi met Shiroko. She was homeless and had no memories. She only knew her name. Back to the present, the Abydos task force swears to save Shiroko from the Chroma and asks Sensei for help. Some students arrive at Chalet to lend a hand. Rin puts together a team of particularly smart students to face the crisis. They start gathering information and forming a plan. According to their analysis, the 6 towers emit a signal that interferes with people's brains and is capable of driving them insane. The energy contained in the towers is expected to reach a critical point after 2 weeks, at which point their influence will spread all throughout Kivotos. So, in short, they have 2 weeks to destroy the towers. The problem is that they are guarded by all sorts of creatures, from Kivotos legends brought to life by the Chroma. In the meantime, Sensei wants to find out if there is a way to revert Shiroko back to normal. So they want to speak with the only person who seems to have a good knowledge on the topic. Kuzunoa, the fox girl who previously helped Seiya. However, the president of the Yin-Yang Club of Yakiyako, a Japanese-themed school in Kivotos, says that Kuzunoha is only a legend. Her existence is not confirmed, and she supposedly resides in the great snowfield of Hyakkaryouran. The only people who are said to have met Kuzunoha throughout the years are the presidents of the Hyakkaryouran, a club that has the job of mediating between the other clubs in Hyakkaryouran. The problem is that both the current president and vice president of Hyakkaryouran have disappeared in the Great Snowfield, looking for Kuzunoha. Anyway, the operation to destroy the Six Towers begins, and different teams are created to destroy them all at the same time. In charge of coordinating the attack on Tower 1 is Ayane of Abydos. Participating in the attack are the rest of the Abydos task force, and Problem Solver 68. All the enemies now allies. Each tower has a guardian. This one is guarded by a big robot sandworm called Bina. What a stupid name. It also shoots lasers. They take it out by crashing an abandoned train into it. The attack on the second tower is coordinated by Amy of Millennium. Part of the assault team are CNC and the Justice Task Force of Trinity. The tower fell in the middle of an abandoned munition factory, which the Guardian of the tower brought back to full production. They parachute from the sky in the middle of the factory, and take out the Guardian with the help of students from Red Winter Academy, a school inspired by Soviet Russia. In charge of the third tower is Yuzu, from the game dev department of Millennium. In the team is the rest of her club, and they work together with the Rabbit Squad and Hina of Genna. Honestly, with Aris and Ina, supported by an SRT squad, this setup sounds a bit overpowered, even compared to the other teams. As expected, the attack goes very smoothly for them. The attack on the fourth tower is coordinated by Hanako of Trinity. Taking part in the attack are the Sisterhood, the Remedial Knights of Trinity and Squad of Aries. Once again, all the enemies now working together to save Kivotos. The fifth tower is taken care of by Seminar, the student council of Millennium, who go out of their way to free from a containment cell Millennium's #1 criminal and math genius, Koyuki, to assist them in the operation. They are helped by the Hot Springs department of Genna. Don't let the name fool you. They are actually demolition experts. As for the sixth tower, the one that landed on top of the Sanctum Tower, in the middle of Kivotos, it's the one that's emitting the strongest energy out of the 6 towers. So the plan is to keep it under watch and wait until the other 5 towers are taken care of. Among the people scouting the area around the 6th tower are Atusa and Hifumi. After the other 5 towers are taken care of, the guardian of the last tower appears. And it's Perorozilla, brought to existence by the Chroma. To beat it, they use a special device created by super hacker Imari, capable of enlarging objects. Just like she previously introduced, out of nowhere, a device to enter people's minds. Now she comes out with another weird plot device. They use it on a mech, and they have it fist fight Perorozilla. This is some Pacific Rim type shit. The operation is a success, and all the towers are destroyed. While the attack on the towers is taking place, in Hyakkaryouran the Ninjutsu Research Club is sent to the Great Snowfield to look for clues on Kuzunoha. Of course, a Japanese-themed school as a team of ninjas.
Believe it!
They are assisted in their mission by the Pandemonium Society, Genna Student Council. They drop in the middle of the snowfield with a tiger tank. Hell yeah! Back at Shale, the sky is turning back to blue, after the tower have been destroyed, when suddenly Shiroko appears in front of Sensei. The ninja club doesn't end up finding Kuzunoha. Who they find is Nagusa, the vice president of Hyakkaryouran, who disappeared in the great snowfield a while back. She tells them to stop their mission and gives them a scroll for Sensei. It contains a message from Kuzunoha, which says that the effect of the chroma on a person cannot be reversed, just like you can't bring the dead back to life. Back at Shale, Shiroko reveals to Sensei that she is not being controlled by the chroma. She's doing everything by her own free will. She wants to lead the world to its predetermined destruction, and the chroma is just a tool to accomplish this. When people enter the room and Shiroko sees Ayane, she runs away by opening a rift and disappearing into it. Sensei tries to follow after her, but they get sent back. Everyone is left confused by what they just saw and by Shiroko's words. The members of Gematria meet once again. The fight with Shiroko left them all in really bad shape. They decide to temporarily disband Gematria and to meet again when the time is right. Back at Shale there is a big problem. The 6 masses of energy have been spotted once again. It looks like the towers are reforming, this time in 6 other locations in Kivotos, and even stronger than last time. It's clear that this will not stop happening until the source of the energy is taken care of. So they try to trace its origin point by observing the flow of energy, and they find it. The place that is generating the towers. The only problem? It's at an altitude of 75,000 meters above Kivotos. They try to hit it with a rocket, but it goes right through, as if there was nothing there. By analyzing the material recovered from the destroyed towers, they find out that the object in the sky might be in a quantum superposition state. This black sphere is a space in which all the probable possibilities from parallel universes exist overlapped to one another. Yay, quantum physics in my gacha game. So the reason they can't hit it with a rocket is that the space exists and doesn't exist at the same time. But they speculate that this only applies to the outer layer. Whatever is inside this black sphere must exist, otherwise it wouldn't be able to transfer energy to the towers. So, how can they get through such a barrier? By replicating the same quantum superposition state. But to do that, you would need a quantum computer, which doesn't exist in the Blue Archive universe. Which is surprising, honestly, considering the kind of crazy technology they keep introducing into the story. Like robots that can eat human food.
My man!
But here comes Black Suit to the rescue, pushing Sensei in the right direction by telling them to use whatever Kaiser recently found in the Abydos Desert. Also, he reveals that the object in the sky, protected by the barrier, is actually a copy of the Ark of Atrahasis. The Ark that Ki tried to build by using the city of Eridu, previously in the story. Gematria studied what happened in Eridu, and after Shiroko stole their research, the Chroma created the Ark using their data. What they find in the Abydos Desert, in the Kaiser excavation site, is another ancient artifact, a spaceship called... I have no idea how it's pronounced. Okay, I'll try. Utnapishtim ship. Look, I'll just call it the ship from now on. Anyway, they chase Kaiser's troops away from the dig site and secure the ship. Millennium students are called in to analyze the ship and its schematics. It turns out it doesn't have much in terms of weapons, and its technology is so far beyond what's in Kivoto's that not even the engineering department can tell how it works. But at the very least, they figure out how to use it. Turns out 75% of its mass is arithmetic logic units. It's basically a gigantic flying quantum computer, which in theory will be able to get them through the barrier protecting the Ark. While studying the ship, Himari sees a small drone snooping around. It's Rio, the president of Millennium. She wants to help, but she's still too ashamed to show up in person after trying to kill Aris. Some people are still angry at her, but they decide to accept her help. Later, they start putting together a plan. The objective is the destruction of the Ark of Atrahasis. To get to it, they will use the immeasurable computational power of the spaceship they found to get through the quantum superposition barrier that is protecting the Ark. Once they get through, their ship must make contact with the Ark so that they can hack its operating system and destroy it by having it self-destruct. There is no time to lose. They must do all of this before the 6 towers reappear in Kivoto's. So they decide to start the operation the next morning. The night is full of tension and goodbyes. The team of capable students put together by Rin spends the night trying to memorize how to operate the ship's controls. The Abydos students decide to go, because they are determined to bring Shiroko back at home. Aris also wants to go, and the rest of the game dev club decides to go with her. Also, Aris says that she can still feel Ki inside of her, or K, as they have decided to call her now. Morning arrives, and Sensei and a bunch of selected students board the ship and prepare for takeoff. Only the Shittim chest is advanced enough to awaken the ship. However, Arona warns Sensei that this might damage its owner, but Sensei takes the risk and connects the chest to the power supply of the ship. Everything is ready. They aim at the Ark of Atrahasis and take off at max speed. The strain on Sensei's body is too much for them to bear, so they pass out. And they remember the last words the General Student Council President told them before disappearing.
責任を負うものについて話したことがありましたね。あの時の私には分かりませんでしたが、今なら理解できます。大人としての責任と義務、そしてその延長線上にあったあなたの選択。それが意味する心映えも。ですから先生、私が信じられる大人であるあなたになら、このねじれて歪んだ先の終着点とはまた別の結果を、そこへつながる選択肢はきっと見つかるはずです。だから先生、どうかこの絆を、私たちとの思い出、過ごしてきたその全ての日々をどうか。
The ship's crew must face a big problem right off the bat. the quantum superposition state of the ship doesn't match that of the Ark. It seems the Ark deviated from the value that they had calculated, to prevent them from getting through the barrier. At this rate, if they make contact with the barrier, they will either be sucked into a different dimension or reduced to atoms, which are both not very good outcomes. Ryo comes up with a plan. Since the target is a copy of the Ark of Atrahasis, the only thing that might be able to intervene is the same self-existence, the protocol Atrahasis, that Aris is able to execute. Aris agrees to the plan and decides to ask for Kei's help. She expresses the desire to coexist with her second personality, instead of trying to delete her. Kei is moved. Also, she doesn't want Aris to die, and agrees to help her and starts the protocol Atrahasis. Also, Ryo apologizes to Aris for trying to kill her, and Aris accepts her as a new friend. After all, it is a common development for a boss from the previous game to become an ally in the sequel. It is cliché, but she likes it. Kei secures the resources available to execute the protocol. That is the almost 10 million exabytes offered by the ship they are on. That is a few gigabytes. The basic concept of the protocol Atrahasis is to collect the surrounding data and transform it. In the previous arc, Key tried to build the Ark using this protocol by using the city of Eridu. This would have been the result. In this case, Aris disassembles and uses the data offered by the ship to upgrade her railgun, and she uses it to shoot the multidimensional barrier. The barrier shatters, and the ship makes it through, and crashes against the Ark. They have finally made it inside the enemy's base. After using her ultimate power, Aris has to pay the price, and starts to dissolve, but Kei decides to sacrifice herself instead and takes her place. The ship got damaged pretty badly in the impact, and it can't fly anymore. Enemies start attacking, and Shiroko appears in the cockpit. But when she sees her Abydos clubmates, she throws a grenade, further damaging the ship, and she teleports away. Ryo thinks that Shiroko is using the Ark's powers to teleport around, and that it would be possible for them to use the same power to teleport back to the ground, once they have control of the Ark. So here's the plan. Take control of the Ark, which is basically a supercomputer, by conquering the 4 sectors of the Ark, in which it is divided, and destroying its dimensional engines, to stop the Ark from escaping into the multiverse. Once they have hacked the Ark, they need to activate its self-destruct sequence, and get back to the ground before the explosion. So they fight their way through the outer sectors of the Ark, and take control of them using the ship to hack them, all the while destroying the dimension engines to stop the enemy from escaping into another dimension. In the meantime, Himari scans the Ark and finds out that there are actually 2 Shirokos on board. Turns out that this Shiroko is not the old Shiroko, now transformed by the chroma, but a different Shiroko entirely. The original Shiroko has been held prisoner near the core of the Ark, ever since she was kidnapped, earlier in the arc. They move to the central part of the arc and destroy the 4th and final dimension engine. By doing that, they can now access the control room of the arc, and the section in which OG Shiroko is being held prisoner. Sensei goes to pick Shiroko up, while the others are on standby. Now that they have control of the entire arc, they can activate the self-destruct sequence and get out of there as soon as everyone is ready. But it turns out the enemy started a counter-hacking through a backdoor without them noticing. They lose control of the Ark and of the ship they came with. Combining their computational powers, the enemy can now make the towers back on the ground reappear much faster than anticipated. The sky turns red again, and monsters start to appear once again in Kivotos. Shiroko and Sensei are the closest to the control room of the Ark from which the ship is being hacked, so they run there and find Phrenapates, who takes everyone by surprise by taking out a shittim chest of their own. Shiroko shoots them, but to no effect. All of her bullets are stopped by none other than a second Arona. There's another Shiroko, and another Arona. The real identity of Phrenapates is becoming clearer. The identity of the main antagonists is finally revealed. They are the Shiroko and Arona of another dimension, while Phrenapates is Sensei from a different timeline. But here's the twist. Arona analyzes their biometrics and turns out that Sensei, Phrenapates, is already dead. And the other Shiroko, I'll call her Shiroko Terror from now on, confesses that she was the one who killed them. Now they are just a corpse, a puppet that serves as the guide of Chroma. Shiroko doesn't want to accept that she would do something like that in a different timeline. The two start fighting, but Shiroko Terror is more experienced in combat and holds her ground. She insists that this is Shiroko's destiny, set in stone from the moment she came to exist. In the meantime, back on the ship, the others are looking for a way to fight the counter-hacking. Himari proposes to look for the communication terminal that is relaying the commands and to destroy it. They look for where all the hacking signals are passing through and find that the communication terminal is at the very bottom of the Ark, 12 kilometers below their position. Damn, that's a big-ass Ark. Gena's Gourmet Research Society, who also came along on this mission, just for fun, because they are a bunch of idiots, volunteer to drive their truck. Actually, it's not even their truck. Down to the communication terminal and destroy it. So at least they made themselves useful. Back on the ground, the first tower appears, and Toki goes to fight the spawning enemies, all on her own, using her power suit. But there are far too many, and she's defeated. She's about to be killed when her CNC club mates show up and save her. She's finally a member of the team. In the meantime, the Gourmet Research Society makes it to the communication terminal and destroys it. With the counter-hacking interrupted, they regain control of the ship. They can now go back on the offensive, and they take control of the Ark. Now, all that is left is to activate the Ark's self-destruct sequence and get out of there before the explosion by using the power of the Ark to teleport everyone back to the ground. Just like how Shiroko Terror was able to teleport back and forth from the Ark to Kivotos. In the control room, round 2 between the Shirokos begins. Shiroko Terror is convinced that as long as she can kill Sensei, she can still turn things around and complete her mission. And so begins the final showdown. Sensei, Arona and Shiroko versus Sensei, Arona and Shiroko. Yeah. This time OG Shiroko holds her ground and protects Sensei. The Abydos task force finally reaches the control room, to help in their fight. When Shiroko Terror sees her old friends, she starts crying and blaming herself for the destruction of the world in her own dimension. We finally get her backstory. She comes from a dimension in which a sensei was badly injured and fell into a coma. The rest of the Abydos task force either died or left the school, and Shiroko was left all alone, pushing herself to the limit to repay the debt the school owed. Eventually, she gave up on living. That's when the Chroma found her. The nameless priests appeared before her, and she was reborn as the god of death, Anubis. Her only mission to bring an end to all existence. And so, with the power of the Chroma, she brought destruction to the entire world. Miraculously, Sensei wakes up from their coma, and the nameless priests order Shiroko to take care of them and the Shittim chest, the only thing strong enough to interfere with her mission. She shoots the chest, but she can't bring herself to finish off Sensei, and starts apologizing to them. So, Sensei decides to offer themselves to the Chroma, to take the place of Shiroko as the guide of Chroma, to carry out the will of the nameless priests in her place, to carry that burden. And so Phrenapates was born. Back to the present, the self-destruct sequence of the arc is activated. People start evacuating by using the evacuation sequence created by Rio, which uses the computing function of the arc. They have exactly 23 sequences available. The number of students that joined the mission, plus Sensei. Meanwhile, in the control room, Phrenapates starts accumulating the arc's remaining energy into themselves. So they are forced to finally put the guide of Chroma out of their misery. By charging Aris's weapon, using the ship's remaining energy, they take Phrenapates down. Everyone except for Sensei uses the escape sequence, and Phrenapates, before crumbling to pieces, has a last wish. They beg Sensei to take care of their students. And so, Sensei uses the last evacuation sequence available, not on themselves, but on Shiroko Terror, and stays on the arc, which is disintegrating. The other dimension's Arona begins to understand the reason why her sensei left themselves become the Chroma's puppet. From the very beginning, they trusted that another universe's sensei would be able to face the Chroma and defeat Phrenapates, and that Shiroko Terror would be saved. So other dimension Arona decides to join forces with the OG Arona, and by uniting their powers, they create a protective barrier around Sensei, who then falls from the sky like a shooting star. And so Sensei makes it down to the ground safely, even though all of their clothes disintegrate during the fall, so they arrive completely naked to their students. With the guide of Chroma destroyed, together with the Ark, Shiroko Terror is free. She plans on disappearing, as she doesn't think two Shirokos should be allowed to exist in the same dimension. But OG Shiroko welcomes her, and gives her the bank robber mask that she carries around everywhere. As for the other Arona, she is welcomed by the OG Arona to stay with her in the same Shittim chest, and names her Plana, because having the same name would probably be confusing. The end. Actually, I lied. There's an epilogue. A bit of time has passed, and the works to rebuild the destroyed parts of Kivotos are underway. Reconstructing Sanctum Tower will probably take some time. Kaiser agrees to not reveal the fact that Minister of Finance Kaya is conspiring against the General Student Council, and in exchange she saves them from bankruptcy, which they risked as a result of their actions during this arc. She also accepts to work with them in the future, even though they backstabbed her. She's kinda dumb, I guess. Kay has disappeared, and Aris hasn't seen her again, but mysteriously Momoi finds a new unknown file on her gaming console called k.sav. Arona and Plana live happily together in the Shittim chest, as two twin sisters. Sensei finally receives a call from Yakiyako about the content of the scroll that was given to the ninja squad. A message from Kuzunoha that says that a being affected by the chroma cannot turn back to its original state. So Shiroko Terror can never return to her original self. Rin receives a mysterious letter, and it turns out it's from the president. We don't get to see the content for now. Finally, Plana reveals that the General Student Council president was missing even in her own dimension. The final scene is very enigmatic. Plana says that the reason no one could find the president is that she was right here, while looking at Arona. What does she mean? Is Arona actually the president, and that's why they look alike? Who knows? The story continues. Flashback time. It's the night on which the newly formed SRT was revealed to Kivotos. The most elite squad in SRT, the Fox Squad, is interviewed by journalists. They have just completed a mission by securing the prototype for a new thermobaric warhead that Kaiser was developing. They also found some documentation proving a connection between Kaiser and members of the Defense Office. They have no problem revealing this information to the public, because the ideal of justice that SRT was created to defend comes before the reputation of the General Student Council, and it was this ideal that inspired the students to join SRT, including Miyako, who looked up to her seniors in the Fox Squad. Things are very different in the present. The Fox Squad is carrying out secret sabotage operations on Kivoto's infrastructure to raise frustration in the population and damage the current General Student Council's reputation. They are doing this under Kaya's command, who still plans on taking the position of acting president for herself. Morale isn't exactly high. The members of the team are wondering if this is the right course of action, but Yukino, the team leader, is determined to carry out her orders, because Kaya promised to restore SRT once she's in control of the city. Back to the Rabbit Squad. They are having a toast with Sensei, who brought them an expensive meal to thank them for their help during the recapture of Shale. They propose to Sensei to check the footage from the security cameras in Shale to see if Kaiser's soldiers stole anything during their occupation. They find out that someone left Shale's basement with something in their hands while wearing SRT equipment. They assume that it's the same SRT equipment that they sold after their camp was flooded during part 1. So they trace where their stuff went after the transaction and arrive at a suspicious building. They breach inside, expecting some criminals, but instead they get ambushed and disarmed by the Fox Squad. They are the ones who received the equipment and who took advantage of the chaos during Kaiser's occupation to steal something from Shale's basement. The Fox Squad invites the Rabbit Squad to have lunch together, while scolding them for their lackluster breaching skills. Yukino makes an offer to Miyako. She invites her to disband the Rabbit Squad and merge into the Fox Squad, promising that she's going to restore SRT Academy. But Miyako, still not sure about Yukino's plans and of what they stole from Shale, asks for some time to consider the offer. Back at the camp, they are discussing what just happened with Sensei, when suddenly a big screen on an airship broadcasts an important message from the General Student Council. Kaya appears on the screen and announces that Rin has been removed from her position of acting president, and now she has taken her place. Here's what happened. Shortly after a meeting of the General Student Council, Rin was approached by Kaya, who placed her under arrest. She is accused of concealing official documents and abuse of authority. Her proof is a supposed letter that was discovered in Shale's basement during Kaiser's occupation. She says that it's from the missing president, and in it she designated the chief of defense, that is Kaya, as acting president in case of emergency. Supposedly, that is the thing that the Fox Squad recovered. And Kaya accuses Rin of intentionally concealing this document to take the position for herself. Obviously, we know it's probably a fake letter. But Rin is currently unpopular enough that many buy Kaya's story, and Rin is placed under arrest. So, Kaya has finally accomplished her objective, and is now the acting president of the General Student Council. The next morning, a new executive order goes into effect, and the supervision of security in Kivotos is entrusted to Kaiser Security. A bunch of new regulations are imposed on the population. People get arrested left and right. Even my man Descartes,
My man!
for being a burden to society, is sent to the employment facility. My boy must face his worst enemy, a job application. Anyway, effectively, Kivotos turns into a police state. But not everyone agrees to comply, and the Labour Party starts to protest the new regime. Yes, there's a Labour Party in Blue Archive. Sensei meets Kanna. While they drink a coffee together, she explains that she has been relieved of her position as director of the Public Peace Bureau after disobeying orders and helping Sensei in the previous arc. She asks Sensei not to feel guilty about it. She knew what she was doing and is okay with facing the consequences. Sensei goes to Kozagi Park to check on the Rabbit Squad, but finds it empty. They find a letter from Miyako, which says that since Kaya has declared that she plans on reopening SRT Academy, the protest in the park is no longer necessary. So she has decided to disband the Rabbit Squad and accept Yukino's proposal of merging with the Fox Squad. And so they have joined their seniors and are living with them in a secret SRT training facility. The protests continue in Kivotos, and Kaya asks the general of the Kaiser PMC to take care of them, but he refuses unless his budget is increased, which is not something that Kaya can afford. And so she starts to think for a different solution, and suddenly comes up with a brilliant idea to put an end to the protests. She decides she will control Kivotos through fear. And the first step will be to detonate the thermobaric warhead prototype, the one that the Fox Squad recovered a couple of years earlier, in the middle of Kozagi district, inside an underground facility that Kaiser built when renovating the district. Yukino reluctantly agrees to carry out her orders. At this point, she'll do anything to restore SRT. This plan is so cartoonishly evil, but then again, I heard of real-life politicians doing worse. So, That evening, the Fox Squad minus Yukino visits Sensei at Shale. I still haven't introduced them. They are Kurumi, the tank, Otogi, the sniper, and Nico, the team mom and second in command. They talk for a while. At this point, they feel like they have become just a weapon that those in power can aim in any direction they choose. But they are determined to follow their team leader till the end. They end up realizing how good and dependable Sensei is. So, before leaving, Nico reveals where the SRT secret training facility is. Sensei goes there in the middle of the night to see how Miyako is doing. They have a long talk, and Sensei convinces her that she shouldn't give up on her ideals, her sense of justice, for which she has sacrificed so much. Later, when Yukino explains their new mission of blowing up Kozagi district, Miyako decides to run away and returns to her old camp. Unlike Yukino, she's not going to sacrifice her ideals just to restore SRT. Miyako and Sensei start preparing an operation to stop Kaya's plan. Miyako needs to infiltrate the underground facility and disarm the bomb. But there are Kaiser troops all around the district, and Fox Squad is in charge of protecting the bomb. That's when the real main character of the story shows up. My boy Descartes.
My man!
Look what a single job application has done to my poor boy. They turned him into a slave of the system. When they explain to him what's going on, he calls for his followers. And together they break through Kaiser's defenses. Kanna and other Valkyrie students are also there and decide to help Sensei. Later, Sensei and Miyako make it to the underground facility, but the bomb is being guarded by the Fox Squad. Thankfully, the rest of Rabbit Squad shows up to support Miyako. They also decided to join Miyako's side and fight for their ideal of justice. And so they breach inside. Kurumi and Otogi are the first line of defense. Saki rushes in to get Otogi's attention and engages in a close-range fight with Kurumi. In the meantime, Miyu uses her infiltration skills to sneak up on Otogi's sniper spot. Apparently, Miyu's stealth skills are the best in all of SRT, because of her ability to fade into the background. Even her teammates sometimes lose track of her. Poor Miyu. Nico electronically seals the reinforced doors to block access to the lower floors, and takes the power offline to stop the rabbits from reopening them. But the explosive expert Moe has brought enough explosives to blow the doors open. The Fox Squad is forced to retreat to the control room on the lower floors. After rappelling down the elevator shaft, the rabbits and foxes face each other in the control room. During the firefight, Yukino drops the detonator, and Sensei picks it up. It's basically checkmate at this point, but Yukino refuses to give up. At this point, she feels that she has strayed too far from the right path, and there's no second chance for her. So she'd rather die than quit the mission. But Sensei talks some sense into her, and convinces Yukino that there is always a second chance. Because, as you know, Sensei believes always in their students, and will always fight for them. Even if they must bend the rules sometimes. That is why I'm placing Sensei in neutral good in the alignment chart. The Rabbit Squad collects from the Fox Squad all the evidence needed to arrest Kaya. So finally they can lock her up, and peace can return to Kivotos. The Fox Squad also ends up in jail for their actions. Nico receives a letter from Miyako, updating her on what is going on in Kivotos. Following Kaya's arrest, Rin reassumed their position of acting president. The crimes of the Fox Squad have remained classified. Only the General Student Council knows. As for the Rabbit Squad, they received official permission to use Kozagi Park as their base until SRT reopens. But unlike before, they have decided to use the bathrooms at Chalet instead of bathing in barrels. So I guess things are better for them now. The end. This arc takes place in Hyakkaryouran, an academy that looks like ancient Japan. The president of the Yin Yang Club, Nia, invites Sensei to attend an upcoming festival. It's the Lantern Festival, which hasn't been celebrated in 20 years. When they arrive at Hyakkaryouran, they see a student fighting some thugs to recover an old dog's wallet. The student's name is Yukari. After Sensei helps her to get rid of the outlaws, she gives them a tour of the district, which is busy with preparations for the festival. We find out that she's from a rich family when one of her housemaids suddenly appears looking for her. But Yukari, seemingly not wanting to go back home, runs away. Left alone, Sensei goes to the Yin Yang Club, where Nia explains that she received a mysterious letter from a club called Nature's Beauty, which doesn't even exist officially, and is only an urban legend. The letter says that during the Lantern Festival, Nature's Beauty shall make its return, and destruction will follow. Pretty ominous. Nia says that situations like these are usually handled by the Hyakkaryouran, a club tasked with resolving conflicts within Hyakkaryouran. However, this club is in the process of disbanding because the president, Ayame, went to the Great Snowfield, a remote area of Hyakkaryouran, and disappeared. And the vice president, Nagusa, came back from the Great Snowfield alone after going there to look for Ayame, and she refuses to take the role of acting president in her absence, so the club has no one to guide it anymore. Suddenly Yukari enters the room, and she reveals that she's a member of Hyakkaryouran, and her plan is to become the new president to save the club. To do that, she wants to invoke a succession contest. Basically, there's a rule in this club that says that a member can challenge an officer to a duel to steal their position. In this case, Yukari wants to challenge Nagusa, the official vice president of the club. However, according to the rules, Yukari needs two people to act as witnesses to the succession contest, one of whom needs to be another member of Hyakkaryouran, the other a person of good standing, not affiliated with the club. Sensei agrees to be one of the witnesses, so now Yukari just needs to convince a fellow club member to be the second witness. Yukari and Sensei head out to look for Renge, a member of Hyakkaryouran, but since she is very obsessed with spending every second of her youth doing something meaningful, she has already moved on and joined a different club, the Inner Discipline Club. She gave up on Hyakkaryouran after Nagusa, whom she respected a lot, refused to replace the missing president. She's still very frustrated about the whole situation, and thinks Yukari is a fool for invoking a succession contest, and should give up on Hyakkaryouran as well. But Yukari does not give up, and decides that the next day she's going to look for another witness. But for the time being, she must go back home. Sensei decides to take a walk around, and they stumble across a fight between the Morio, a local gang of troublemakers, and Nagusa. She seems to be in trouble, so Sensei helps her escape from the gang. Later, they talk for a while, and Sensei explains to her Yukari's plan. It's obvious that Nagusa feels guilty for the state of Hyakkaryouran, but at the same time, she refuses to go back and take charge. The next morning, Yukari goes to ask Kikyo to be her witness in the succession contest, the operational strategist of Hyakkaryouran. When they find her, she's having a conversation with Shizuko, the student organizing the Lantern Festival. She's looking around for the Miko of the Kadenokoji's family, who is supposed to perform at the festival. It turns out that person is Yukari, who has been skipping on her duties to attend to her mission of saving Hyakkaryouran. Kikyo is the one who declared the dissolution of the club after Nagusa resigned, and when Yukari asks her to be the witness, she brutally shoots her down. She doesn't even think that Yukari has what it takes to beat Nagusa in a duel, and to prove that she beats Yukari in a duel, right then and there. After getting utterly defeated by Kikyo, Yukari's determination breaks, and she agrees to give up on her dream of restoring Hyakkaryouran, and to go back to her duties as a Miko of the Kadenokoji's family. Sensei feels bad for Yukari, and thinks Kikyo was way too harsh, and shouldn't have shattered her dreams as she did. She should be able to pursue her dreams, instead of being forced into going along with her family tradition, which she clearly doesn't like. After all, she joined Hyakkaryouran to escape from her family's expectations in the first place. So Sensei and Shizuko run around the district looking for her, but without success. Evening comes, and the festival starts. Shizuko finally finds Yukari, but she says not to worry about her. She has accepted her duty, and will perform as the Miko of the Lantern Festival. Meanwhile, Sensei meets a strange girl, who says that she was the one who sent the ominous letter to the Yin Yang Club. She says she's from the mysterious club called Nature's Beauty, and that Yakiyaku is about to burn. Before Sensei can interrogate her, she disappears in the crowd. Shortly after, Sensei finds Nagusa once again. She's also walking around the festival. Sensei asks why she has abandoned Hyakkaryouran and her fellow clubmates, who all looked up to her, and she answers that no one would ever be able to replace the missing president, Ayame. But they can't discuss the matter further, because suddenly they hear an explosion and people screaming. Fire starts spreading around them, and weird monsters start to appear. Nagusa explains that they are artifact spirits, everyday objects that are possessed by evil spirits, created by rumors and ghost stories. Nagusa and Sensei run to help the fleeing students, and they find Renge and the Inner Discipline Club doing the same. Among the flames emerges a being a lot more dangerous than the artifact spirits, Kurokage, a phantom fable, a very powerful evil spirit, born from Ino's phantom records, a tome that Nature's Beauty possesses. Weapons don't have any effect. Nagusa explains that the only thing that can hurt a phantom fable is a rifle called the 100 Lotus, a weapon that was originally used by the prophet Kuzunoa, which only the president of Hyakkaryouran can use. Renge asks Nagusa to wield the gun in place of Ayame, but she refuses. She cannot replace Ayame. The Nature's Beauty girl appears once again. Her name is Shuro. She is the one who summoned the evil spirits, the bard who wrote the ghost stories. They try shooting her, but just like the spirits, she appears to be immune to their bullets. She seems to know a lot about Nagusa. She starts mocking her and calling her a coward and a liar. She reveals that Nagusa has a huge inferiority complex. She has seen herself as a fraud ever since she became vice president. And when Ayame disappeared and she should have taken her place, she decided to run away, afraid that being put in a spotlight would expose to everyone how incompetent she is. Kikyo arrives at the scene to bring the 100 Lotus from the Hyakkaryouran club room, just in time to hear Shuro expose Nagusa. Everyone is rightly disappointed to learn that Nagusa, whom everyone looked up to, in the end was someone who only cared about looking good in front of other people, and left the club only to not expose her incompetence. Shuro says that the climax of the story involves Yukari, whom she considers the leading actress in her story, and then runs away. Sensei and the others try to chase after her, but Kurokage blocks their path. Nagusa explains what nature's beauty is. She doesn't know their final goal, but they are responsible for the disappearance of Ayame. She met the president of nature's beauty in the Great Snowfield, who used their tome to turn Ayame into a phantom fable and dragged her into the spirit realm. Nagusa tried to save her, but failed. Now Shuro intends to do the same to Yukari. Shuro hijacks the livestream that was broadcasting the festival all around Kivotos to show Yukari unconscious. They must get to her as soon as possible, but Nagusa still refuses to wield the 100 Lotus. I guess for some magic-related reason, no one else can use it, except for the president of Hyakkaryouran. She says that what Shuro said is true. She is a coward and an imposter. But everyone begs her to save Yukari. Only she has the power to do so. She agrees to give it a try, and uses the Lotus against Kurokage. Yukari regains consciousness. Shuro explains to her that all the destruction that surrounds them was caused by her emotions, a manifestation of all the loneliness and frustration in her heart. The source of the destruction is in fact a thing called a faceless katashiro, which is a manifestation of Yukari's emotions. Overwhelmed by despair, she passes out once again. Nagusa and Sensei reach the stage and face Shuro once again. Once again, she starts mocking Nagusa and revealing all her secrets. How she failed to save Ayame when she got dragged into the spirit realm. How she failed to live up to Yukari's expectations. But Sensei says that sometimes people lie a bit to look good to others. And that's normal. It's not the end of the world. Fake it till you make it, they say. Nagusa will eventually meet everyone's expectations if she works hard. Sensei's voice reawakens Yukari, and with some newfound motivation, she decides to fight against Shuro to save the Hyakkaryouran, instead of letting negative emotions overwhelm her. Renge and Kikyo finally arrive, and the three fight together against the faceless Katashiro and Shuro. But in the end, only the 100 Lotus can destroy a phantom fable, so Nagusa, to save everyone, despite being afraid, stands up and faces the evil spirits. She shoots Shuro with the Lotus, and this time the bullets land. At the same time, having defeated their negative emotions, Yukari makes the faceless Katashiro disappear. When Shuro realizes that she's going to lose, she rips a page from her book and disappears before everyone's eyes. The festival was ruined, but at the very least the day is saved. But it's not over yet. Yukari thanks everyone for rescuing her, and then uses the occasion to challenge Nagusa to a succession contest. It's not exactly the most appropriate moment, but they decide to go along with her wish. And so Yukari and Nagusa face each other in a duel, and Yukari loses. But she's still happy with the outcome, because Nagusa has finally decided to fulfill the role of acting president. So Hyakkaryouran is saved. In the following days, the district is hard at work to repair the damage caused by the fire. The closure of Hyakkaryouran is put on hold. Nia feels guilty for not taking the letter from Nature's Beauty more seriously. She thinks that if it wasn't for her negligence, a lot of the damage could have been avoided. She swears to find out more information on this mysterious club. The district decides to hold a festival once again, and the Hyakkaryouran members resume their security patrols, as they used to do before their president disappeared. Yukari says that she has spoken to her family and made it clear that she doesn't want to be a Miko, and they accepted their decision. Well, that was surprisingly easy in the end. Everything would be well and good if it weren't for the president of Nature's Beauty, who is revealed to be this lady named Kokuriko, who is still plotting in the shadows. This weird creature called the Underground Dweller, who used to be a member of Gematria before he was expelled and sealed away, is informed of the dissolution of the organization. Hearing the news, he decides that it's the right moment to step in, leave his seclusion, and attempt to take down Sensei in his own way. We then see the first of many flashbacks in this arc. During her first year of high school, Hoshino became vice president of the Abydos Student Council, and she spent her days with the president, Yume, coming up with ways to repay the huge debt the school owed. For example, in this first flashback, they go dig in the desert, looking for rare minerals, without much success. In the present, the Forclosure task force is holding an important meeting. As we learned in the previous arcs, Kaiser Corporation was digging in the Abydos Desert, looking for the ship of whatever. During the battle against the Chroma, the ship blew up, together with the Ark of Atrasis. So now Kaiser has no reason to continue their occupation of the Abydos district, and has left. Almost half of the debt the school owes to Kaiser Corporation was converted into bonds, which are about to go on sale in the bond market. Hoshino suspects that since buying the debt of an academy with only 5 students, and that could close down at any moment, is a huge risk, the bonds will probably be sold at a very low price. So a smart thing to do for the task force would be to buy the bonds. But unexpectedly, when they check the bond market, they find out that they are selling at a ridiculously high price. Who would ever invest in such a thing? The answer is the Nephthys group. Wait, who? Nephthys, years back, used to be the most successful company in Abydos, before the district turned into a desert. When the desertification began, Nephthys built a trans-desert railway as an attempt to bring more commerce to the district. But the economic collapse was inevitable at that point, and in the end the company sold off its business interests and left Abydos. And it is revealed that Nonomi is the successor to Nephthys. It is her family's company, which is something that Hoshino has always known from the moment she met her for the first time, which is shown to us in the second flashback of this arc. Nonomi thinks the reason Nephthys bought the bonds is to regain control of the Trans-Desert Railway, which they built years back and then abandoned. What they would gain by spending so much money on a failed project is a mystery for now. No time to wonder about that though. They hear a lot of noise coming from outside. Students from Highlander Railroad Academy, a partner of the Nephthys group, and which manages, you guessed it, the railroads all around Kivotos, are already hard at work restoring the Trans-Desert Railway. They didn't ask for permission, they just started working. Because the ones in charge of the operation, the twins Nozomi and Hikari, who are part of CCC, the Highlander Student Council, are chaotic neutral characters who do whatever they want. The task force doesn't like it when strangers show up in the district without authorization, and so they take care of the two brats who have mastered the art of multi-track drifting. To rescue them arrives Suo, the overseer at Highlander Academy. She apologizes on their behalf, but also explains that Highlander has entered a contract with Nephthys and now owns the development rights for Abydos Railways. So what they are doing is within their rights. She promises to pay a visit to the task force to explain the situation in greater detail. But not before we get our third flashback. We learn that Yume was pretty naive and kinda dumb. So Hoshino, despite being younger, had to take care of her and get her out of trouble. Yume, on the other hand, worried that Hoshino was too distrustful of other people and prone to violence, and so she tried to be a good influence on her junior. Probably why Hoshino is a lot more relaxed and good-natured in the present. Also, it's shown that Yume had a personal notebook in which she wrote all of her thoughts. This will be relevant later. Flashback 3 is immediately followed by, you guessed it, Flashback 4. Before joining Abydos, Nonomi approached Hoshino and proposed to pay the entire debt of the Abydos school by using her family's money. But Hoshino refused, because she didn't want to involve Nephthys. She instead proposed to Nonomi to work hard and earn some money if she truly wants to help. Flashback number 5. Nonomi informs Hoshino that she just graduated from middle school, and her family wants her to enter Highlander Academy because the school is in a contract with Nephthys. But she doesn't really like the idea, and she would rather enroll in Abydos. Back to the present. As promised, Suo and the twins visit the task force to explain what's going on in more detail. They came accompanied by the private equity fund that bought the derivative bonds. Because, you see, Nephthys couldn't afford to buy the rights to the Trans-Desert Railway all on their own, and required the funds of different interested parties. There sure is a lot of business-related talk in this arc, huh? The creditor representative is there to show the task force a contract, signed 2 years back by Yume, in which it is stated that the Abydos Student Council purchased from Nephthys some facilities created during the Trans-Desert Railway project for 1 million yen. Apparently they use yen in Kivotos, I didn't even know that. Hoshino had no idea that Yume signed such a contract. However, it is still in progress, because the payment has yet to be deposited. The existence of this piece of paper is a problem for the private equity fund, because it prevents them from gaining full ownership of the Trans-Desert Railway. So they explain that they will hold a general creditors meeting in 2 days, which is the same day the contract expires, and invite Hoshino, the last remaining member of the Abydos Student Council, to show up and state whether she plans on upholding her end of the contract and pay the 1 million yen, or not. In which case the Abydos Student Council will hand over the rights over those facilities to the private equity fund. Man, this is a lot of business talk. I hope you are keeping up. With that message delivered, the businessmen leave. Before deciding what to do, the task force wants to find out why people seem so interested in the Trans-Desert Railway in the first place. Also, the rest of the task force starts to ask Hoshino about the old Abydos president, Yume, to understand why she would sign such a contract. Hoshino says that Yume never graduated. She went into the desert and disappeared. She was found dead 33 days later. Mysteriously, the day the contract was signed is the exact day Yume went missing. Not even Hoshino knows what she did during her final days, or why she would go alone in the desert. She thinks the answer could be in the notebook Yume carried around, but it was never found. Later, to find out the truth, Nonomi calls her butler, who is also an officer in Nephthys. He expresses his disappointment in Nonomi for cutting ties with her family and enrolling in Abydos, but he's still willing to pay them a visit the next day to explain what's going on. Everyone goes back home for the night. Early in the morning, Plan detects some irregularities in Shale's gas system and erects a protective barrier around Sensei, just in time to protect them from an explosion. It's the doing of the underground dweller, trying to kill Sensei, but he didn't expect the Shittim Chest's defensive capabilities to be so strong. Sensei survives, but passes out and must be carried to the hospital. Back to Abydos, just in time for flashback number 6. It's when Yume and Hoshino met for the first time. Yume was gathering signatures for a petition.
Would you please sign my petition?
Hoshino realized how hopeless she was, so she decided to stick around and protect her from thugs. It was the beginning of a great friendship. Flashback number 7. Hoshino asks Yume how she became the president of Abydos. She says that there was no formal procedure. Before all the other members of the student council left the school, they simply cast a vote by raising their hands, and she was elected president. Flashback number 8. It shows when Hoshino finally decided to join the Abydos Student Council as vice president. From that moment, they spent all of their days together and grew really close. In the present, Hoshino finds her friends snooping around in the old student council room, looking for clues on Yume. So she decides it's finally time to talk about her past. She wasn't always the calm person she is today. She was full of rage and frustration over the state of Abydos. One day, she had a fight with Yume and didn't go to school for 2 days. When she went back, Yume was gone, nowhere to be seen. She spent the following days looking all over Abydos. Her only clue a voice message left by Yume, in which she said that she had to cross the desert because of an urgent matter. 33 days after her disappearance, she was found dead in the desert. The cause of death was dehydration and exhaustion. Most likely she got lost during a sandstorm. Hoshino was able to recover all of Yume's belongings, except for her precious notebook. She's convinced it contains some answers, but no matter how hard she looked, she was never able to find it. Shortly after, Nonomi's butler visits Abydos, accompanied by Suo, and finally reveals the secret of the Trans-Desert Railway. He says that the project began as a simple railway system, but when it turned unprofitable, someone proposed the construction of a gigantic train cannon, which could move around using the railway system, and had such a range that it would have exerted a lot of control over the surrounding districts. The at the time president of Abydos approved the project, and Nephthys built the cannon. But, limited by the technology of the time, they never managed to make it work. Which is weird, because the Germans had train cannons way back in the 40s. But whatever. Now, with new developments in technology, the private equity fund and Nephthys are convinced they'll be able to finish the cannon, which is why they are trying to get their hands on the Trans-Desert Railway. The contract signed by Yume is the thing stopping them from having full ownership of the project, because it gives the Abydos Student Council the right over the railway auxiliary facilities, which the cannon is a part of. So the logical thing to do would be for Hoshino to go to the General Creditors meeting and uphold her end of the contract to prevent the private equity fund from owning the train cannon. But Suo warns her that they will play dirty and they will position mercenaries around the meeting place to stop Hoshino from attending. Flashback number... what are we at? Like 10? Let's go with 10. It's when Hoshino and Nonomi found Shiroko. She was homeless, so they took her in like a stray dog. The three of them went on to create the Forclosure task force in order to save Abydos. The following year, Serika and Ayame also joined, and the club became what it is today. The night before the General Creditors meeting, Nonomi is kidnapped by her butler and Suo and taken hostage. His demands are as follows. The following day, Hoshino must attend the Creditors meeting and nullify the contract that Yume signed by declaring that the Abydos Student Council was a fake organization without the rights to sign such a contract. After all, Yume was elected by raising hands and not through official means, so it would be easy to deny its legitimacy. By doing so, the rights to the train cannon would go to Nephthys without passing through the private equity fund. With no other choice, Hoshino agrees to do as he says. But after freeing Nonomi, she plans on destroying the train cannon, and doesn't care if this will send her to prison, or worse, get her exiled from Kivotos. She's not going to let shady people get their hands on such a dangerous weapon. However, she wants to act alone, so the other members of the task force don't have to face the consequences of her actions. The others don't agree with that and try to stop Hoshino by force, but she's way too strong for them. After defeating them, she gears up and heads for the meeting place. In the meantime, Sensei finally wakes up. What have they even done in this arc so far? Nothing, basically. And they go to Abydos and arrive shortly after Hoshino has left. They come up with a plan to move forward. Since the position of president has remained vacant since Yume's death, they propose to hold an election, and with Shale's approval, it will be a legitimate one. Ayane is elected the new president, and her first decision is to merge the Abydos Student Council with the Forclosure Task Force into a single organization. Now Ayane is the one with the authority to uphold or decline the contract that Yume signed, and she plans to uphold it. And even if Hoshino tried to deny the legitimacy of the student council, she no longer has the authority to do that. Sensei traces Nonomi down with the shitting chest, and she is being held in the same building where the creditors meeting will take place, so they head there, following the trail of destruction that Hoshino left behind her while fighting the mercenaries. Meanwhile, at the general creditors meeting, a plot twist is taking place. Suo reveals that the whole time she has been secretly working for Kaiser, and has informed them of the existence of the train cannon, which they didn't know about when selling the bonds. The Kaiser president shows up at the meeting, and at gunpoint forces all the private equity fund members to sell their companies to Kaiser. So now, if Hoshino fails to show up, the rights to the train cannon will go to Kaiser. Honestly, I'm getting a bit tired of Kaiser getting involved in every story arc. Kaiser sends out troops to stop Hoshino, but they are not enough, and she makes it to the general creditors meeting. In the meantime, Kaiser's soldiers pinpoint the location of the train cannon, which was still unknown to everyone up to this point. It's in the Abydos Desert, Restricted District Sector 35-9. At the meeting, Hoshino is surprised to see the Kaiser president, who promises to free Nonomi if Hoshino certifies the termination of the contract signed by Yume, so that the ownership of the cannon legally goes to Kaiser, the new representative of the private equity fund. The others arrive at the meeting too, and Ayane announces that she is the newly elected president, and Hoshino has no authority to make any decision regarding the contract. She announces that Abydos will uphold its end of the contract and hold ownership of the cannon. But Kaiser's president doesn't really care. When have legal procedures ever mattered to them? He rips the contract to pieces and heads to the cannon location via helicopter. But in a twist, Suo throws him off and takes control of the helicopter. She says to Hoshino that the cannon is at the Valley of the Student Council Presidents, and to meet her there. If she doesn't, Suo will activate the cannon and take it away from Abydos. Hoshino decides to once again run off alone. She wants to destroy the cannon and doesn't want the rest of the task force to be held responsible. Flashback number 58. You thought we were done with flashbacks. Well, think again. It shows that 2 years ago, Yume was already searching for the Valley of the Student Council Presidents, which is an exposition hall, where supposedly the previous Abydos presidents left a lot of valuable equipment. Yume wasn't sure where this valley is. The only clue left was an old document pointing at Sector 35-9. But the only thing Yume and Hoshino found there was an old abandoned train station. When arriving there in the present, however, Hoshino finds the control room active. It appears Suo preceded her and used Nonomi's Neftis golden card to reactivate the station, which is actually not a simple abandoned station, but a junction with a hidden route to reach the valley. This information is also revealed to the other task force members by Nonomi's butler, so they once again head out to chase Hoshino. The two Highlander twins volunteer to take them by train to Sector 35-9. Once they get there, Sensei and the task force, just like Suo and Hoshino before them, take one of the secret trains to reach the valley. In the meantime, Hoshino arrives there and finally stands in front of the infamous train cannon, which is pretty big indeed. She is surprised to see the Gehenna emblem on the cannon. Suo is already there. She explains that it was Gehenna's tyrant emperor who originally proposed to Abydos and Neftis the construction of the train cannon. She was a great politician and strategist who led Gehenna in the past, but now she is no longer in Kivotos. But Hoshino isn't there for a history lesson. She wants to destroy the cannon. But Suo stands in her way and provokes her by saying that she knows where Yume's notebook is. And so their fight begins, and obviously Hoshino, being one of the strongest students in Kivotos, wins. She then demands answers, why Suo seems to have a grudge against her, and if she really has Yume's notebook. She reveals that she lied. The notebook probably doesn't exist anymore. As for her motive, she doesn't reveal it. The rest of the task force and Sensei reach the valley, and they try to stop Hoshino before she destroys the cannon and puts herself in trouble. They almost manage to convince her to calm down and go back home, when they hear the cannon move. Suo has activated it by using Nonomi's Neftis card, and challenges Hoshino once again to go after her. If she doesn't, she'll blow up Abydos High School using the cannon. Once again, Hoshino takes off to chase after Suo. In the meantime, Plana has detected that someone has been observing Sensei from an inverted realm, where time, dimension, existence and non-existence are mixed together. Whatever that means. It's the underground dweller, obviously, who, in case you forgot, is still around. Plana explains that his power consists of slightly manipulating reality, while hiding in his inverted dimension, and that the situation they find themselves in is partially his doing. She doesn't really elaborate on that. My theory is that he has been manipulating in some way Suo, because her actions don't really make a lot of sense. But that's just my theory. A game. With Gematria's involvement confirmed, Sensei decides to call for reinforcements. One of the few people in Kivotos strong enough to stop Hoshino, before she falls into whatever trap the underground dweller is preparing. Hoshino returns to 35-9 Sector's train station to get a train to follow the cannon. She enters the station to pull the lever to switch the tracks, but inside finds none other than Hina, waiting for her. She's the one Sensei called. You just know the devs put this fight in the story, just for fan service. And I'm all here for it.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for! That's what it's all about! Woo!
Look, there's even cutscenes and everything. That's so cool. Hoshino knows how powerful Hina is, and has no time to lose, so she goes for the lever instead. She uses a flash grenade on Hina. She pulls the lever and jumps on the train. But Hina also jumps on the train. It seems a direct confrontation is now inevitable. Man, how do they make a fight between two chibis? Looks so cool. I wish they put more of these cutscenes in the game. The fight moves to the roof of the train, where we are gifted with an animated cutscene. Damn, they really put a lot of effort into this fight. I'll just let you watch it. The train explodes, and they both fall off. They are close to the cannon, so Hoshino desperately tries to resume the chase on foot, but Hina blocks her. Hoshino is pushing herself so hard because she is convinced she's honoring Yume's will by destroying the cannon. She thinks Yume left behind that signed contract to allow Hoshino to finish the job. But Hina says that she is wrong. Yume didn't even know about the train cannon existence. She signed the contract hoping to preserve the Trans-Desert Railway, which she considered to be a piece of Abydos history. The reason Yume went alone into the desert was to reach the bank to deposit the payment for the contract, and she got lost because of a sandstorm. Hina knows all of this because a student's death is actually a rare incident in Kivotos, and Genna's intelligence team started an investigation. Ultimately, Yume's death was just an incident. It was no one's fault, and had nothing to do with the train cannon. In the meantime, the rest of the task force, with the help of the Highlander twins, manages to chase down and stop the train cannon. So that's taken care of. Hoshino blames herself for the death of Yume, and is still obsessed with finding the notebook. The underground dweller starts playing with her mind, nailing in her head the conviction that Yume's death was somehow entirely her fault. She starts losing her mind, and finally she snaps. An incredible amount of energy starts pouring out, and she transforms into a being called the Horus of Dawn. Plana says that her existence has inverted. This dormant power was inside her from the very beginning. In fact, it's the reason Black Suit was interested in Hoshino, way back at the beginning of the story. Awakened by the power of the Horus, its natural enemy, the Fury of Set, which is this thing, descends from the sky to engage in a world-ending clash. Plana says that the only way to stop Hoshino at this point is to destroy her halo, because only another divinity would be able to subdue her. Shiroko steps forward, set on saving everyone by gaining divine power, and becoming Anubis, the god of death, by reaching out to the Chroma, which appears out of nowhere the moment Shiroko makes up her mind. But someone intervenes and stops her at the last second. It's the OG Anubis,
Ubis?
Shiroko Terror, who, in case you forgot, is still around in Kivotos ever since the defeat of Phrenapates. She wants to stop Shiroko from going through the same transformation that she did in her own dimension. Shiroko Terror manages to temporarily stop Hoshino, and she notices that there is a weird symbol on Hoshino's chest that resembles Yume's famous notebook. This means Hoshino is still clinging to the hope of finding it, and hasn't fully transformed yet into the Horus. Plana comes up with a plan. She tries to replicate the underground's dweller abilities by using the power of the Shittim chest, and establish a connection directly with Hoshino's mind, so everyone has a nice talk with her to convince her that she should stop blaming herself for Yume's death, trying to undo the psychological damage that the underground dweller dealt on her mind. Sensei tells Hoshino that she doesn't need the notebook. She knew Yume better than anyone else. She already knows what her last message would have been. And so, in this realm, where existence and non-existence are mixed, Hoshino has a last emotional talk with Yume, and they have the opportunity to tell each other what they wanted to say before their final goodbye. So finally Hoshino can move on from the past, and she can start thinking about the future. Man, this scene made me really emotional. The transformation into the Horus is interrupted, and Hoshino gets a hold of herself. Now, all that is left to do is to take care of this Fury of Set thingy. So, the entire task force, plus Shiroko Terror, plus Hina, fight together against it and defeat it. The lightning produced during the fight causes a peculiar reaction. It appears they are standing over a deposit of the rare minerals that Yume was looking for. Epilogue time. After the final battle, Suo runs away. Her motives are still not clear. After their epic duel, Hoshino and Hina grew closer. Look at them. They are so cute together. Shiroko Terror finds out where the underground dweller is hiding and tells him to disappear and never show himself again if he wants to leave. After that, inspired by Hoshino, she also decides to move on from her past and think about the future. And so she goes in the desert and discards the weapons of her friends that she has kept from her original dimension. Ayane passes the position of Abydos Student Council President to Hoshino. Genna takes care of the destruction of the train cannon after finding out that the Tyrant Emperor of Genna was involved with its construction. I guess the current president doesn't like her and wants to get rid of everything that she left behind. Even with the train cannon destroyed, Nephthys decides to invest in the Abydos district. and restore a section of the railway. There's a surge of new businesses in the district, and more people around. Overall, Abydos is doing better. One day, Sensei and Shiroko run into Shiroko Terror. Sensei gives her a smartphone and tells her to stay in touch. And I guess from that day on, when danger struck Abydos, Shiroko Terror showed up to protect it, as a precious ally to the Forclosure task force. The end. We finally see what Ayame, the Hyakkaryouran president, looks like in a nightmare Nagusa is having. Her arm has been hurting a lot lately, the one she injured while trying to save Ayame, and now she must leave with this reminder that she failed, attached to her body, tormenting her every night. In some secluded location, nature's beauty is still plotting. After her failure in part 1, Shuro is given a second chance, and she's presented with a second tome. Originally, Nature's Beauty possessed 3 tomes, with supernatural powers. One was lost 20 years earlier in the Great Snowfield. One was destroyed by Shuro while making her escape previously in the story. And finally, the Phantom Illustrations, which is lent to Shuro by a mysterious third member of the club. In Hyakkyako, people are busy organizing another festival, because that's all they do over there. The Hyakkaryouran has resumed its duty of patrolling around and stopping troublemakers. The members notice that Nagusa's arm is getting worse. Yukari says that a doctor who specializes in mystical medicine is staying at the Kadenokoji's house. They show her the arm, and she says that Nagusa is suffering from phantom pain, from a phantom limb. Her arm isn't really attached to her body, it's in the spirit realm. The doctor says that the only cure is to find the missing arm. Nagusa decides that the time has come to open up to her friends about what happened in the Great Snowfield. Ayame left 10 months earlier to look for the prophet Kuzunoa in the Great Snowfield, in the north of Hyakkyako. When she didn't come back, Nagusa went to look for her, and she eventually found her. But for some reason, it's like she had become a different person, cold and unfriendly. She said she wouldn't go back until she found Kuzunoa. Suddenly, Kokuriko of Nature's Beauty showed up, and told Ayame that she's looking for the same thing and to follow her. Ayame agreed, and when Nagusa tried to stop her from going, she told her that she never considered her a friend. Nagusa tried to reach out to her, and her arm ended up like it is now. She lost consciousness, and when she regained her senses, she found herself in the Twilight Temple, where Kuzunoa resides. The prophet asked her to deliver a message to Sensei. A scroll, the one that was given to the ninja team previously in the story. After revealing what happened, Nagusa apologizes to her friends for failing to stop Ayame, but they don't blame her. It's clear that there was something wrong with Ayame. She was not the type to act like that. The Hyakkaryouran is summoned to the Yin-Yang club room. Sensei is also there. Finally they are here. I think this is the longest it has taken them to show up in a main story arc. Here's the situation. Up in the north, there's a satellite school called Ebisu. Over there, lately people have reported paranormal entities appearing after sunset. They don't have a fixed appearance. They embody the victim's fears, and they can't be damaged by guns. Nagusa supposes that they are the doing of Nature's Beauty, and agrees to head there to investigate. Sensei tags along, hoping to find clues on Kuzunoa, since Ebisu is close to the Great Snowfield. When they get there, they are welcomed by Azami, the president of Abisu's self-government committee. She explains that the spirits only appear at night, so until then she brings them on a tour around the district. They eat local specialties, they go to the hot springs, and finally night arrives. And they are attacked by Shuro and a bunch of artifact spirits. Thankfully, Nagusa has carried with her the 100 Lotus, the anti-spirit rifle. After eliminating the spirits, they start chasing Shuro around, when suddenly, BAM! Ayame appears and shoots her. Everyone is rightly surprised to see Ayame, and even more surprisingly, she seems like her old self, friendly, caring, and extroverted. They ask her what happened to her since she went missing, so she tells her side of the story. One day she was patrolling Hyakkaryouran when she met someone who looked exactly like her. She immediately assumed it was a spirit playing a trick on her, and so she shot it with the 100 Lotus. But to her surprise, it had no effect. Her lookalike simply walked past her and disappeared. Why didn't the rifle work? Did it not recognize Ayame's authority as the president of Hyakkaryouran? Looking for answers, she decided to go to the Great Snowfield to look for the Twilight Temple. But she failed to find it, and remained in Ebisu ever since, to investigate the rumors of monsters that can take the appearance of people's fears. She says the Ayame that Nagusa met in the Great Snowfield must have been the copycat, and not the real her. But Kikyo finds all of this suspicious, and thinks there is something weird about Ayame. She seems too perfect. Also, it's weird that she never attempted to contact them all of this time while staying in Ebisu. Ayame says she has found Nature's Beauty's hideout by tracking the movement of the artifact spirits. So they go there, dragging along Shuro, whom they have captured as a prisoner. They frisk her looking for the tome she used to summon the spirits, but they only find a notebook of low-quality fanfic that she wrote. They get to Nature's Beauty's hideout, and it's an old abandoned mansion. While Sensei and Azami stay behind with Shuro, the members of Hyakkaryouran split up to look around. After all, that always works out in Scooby-Doo.
I think we should split up. What are we looking for? Clues!
Yukari realizes that the mansion is structured like her house, the Kadenokoji's mansion, and she remembers that her maid once told her that her family used to live up north in the past, but decided to move south before she was born. Yukari finds an old tome that reveals why the Lantern Festival had not been celebrated for 20 years. The story says that 20 years ago, the Miko of the Kadenokoji family missed her performance and shamed their family's name. Because of this, the girl was ousted from her home and even lost her position as president of the Hyakkaryouran. With nothing left, the girl went to the Great Snowfield, seeking the wise Kuzunoa. But no matter how much she searched, she never found her, and in the end remained alone. As an act of revenge against Hyakkaryouran, she decided to use her tomes to bring the rumors and ghost stories to life. That girl was Lady Kokuriko, the president of Nature's Beauty, who appears before Yukari. A woman in her 30s in Blue Archive. Impossible! Artifact spirits start appearing all over the place. It's clear the enemy was expecting them, and they have fallen into a trap. The spirits appear even at the entrance of the mansion, and unexpectedly they start attacking Shuro too, who despairs, thinking that Lady Kokuriko has forsaken her. Even after everything she has done, Sensei still tries to protect Shuro, and gets injured. Kikyo and Renge make it out of the mansion, and Kikyo suspects that the enemy knew they were coming because a member of Nature's Beauty must be hiding right under their noses, and accuses Azami of being the culprit. And, as a matter of fact, she's revealed to be Azami, the third member of Nature's Beauty. Wait, she gave them her real name when trying to fool them? That was a sloppy plan. She's the one using a tome to summon the spirits, and she starts summoning them to swarm Kikyo and Renge. Without the 100 Lotus, they can't effectively defend themselves and get defeated. Meanwhile, the one holding the Lotus, Nagusa, finds out that, like Kikyo suspected, the Ayame with them is just an illusion created by Azami's tome. The real Ayame, the one that was corrupted by the spirit realm, shows up and knocks Nagusa out. She wakes up in a cell in the basement of the mansion. Ayame tells her that when she went to look for Kuzunoha, she was exhausted and hated how the weak Nagusa relied so heavily on her. The members of Nature's Beauty head out to attack Hyakkaryouran and leave Shuro at the mansion to keep an eye on the imprisoned members of Hyakkaryouran and Sensei. But Shuro has plans of her own. She wants to meet Kuzunoha too, to ask her to forge a new tome to replace the one that was destroyed in part 1. So she forces the only one of the group who has actually met Kuzunoha, that is Nagusa, to show her the way to the hidden Twilight Temple, using Sensei as a hostage. For some reason she also brings the others along. I'm sure this decision won't backfire on her. After walking for half a day, Nagusa brings them to where Kuzunoha gave her the letter for Sensei, and they find nothing. But when the sun begins to set, the trees start to blossom, and the entrance to the temple appears. I guess that's why they call it the Twilight Temple. It has nothing to do with vampires.
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
Kuzunoha appears to greet them. She's glad Sensei finally came to visit her. But their conversation is interrupted by Shuro, who wants her new tome. But Kuzunoha shoots her for interrupting her, and surprisingly the bullets land, even though she is not using the 100 Lotus. She was the one who originally created the weapon, after all. Nagusa is frustrated with Kuzunoha, because she thinks she should have met with Ayame back when she was looking for her. She thinks that would have solved everything. But Kuzunoha responds that she doesn't get to decide who can find the Twilight Temple, and that Ayame wasn't able to find her not by her own volition, but because she's chasing the light of her past. Nagusa asks to at least know how to revert Ayame to her old self. Kuzunoha says that a soul that has changed cannot return to its former state. But, as Sensei has been able to witness in the past, there are still ways to save someone, and invites Nagusa to not deny Ayame, to face her without rejecting her. Ayame was someone who always wore a mask. She didn't like being the president of Hyakkaryouran. She was under a lot of pressure, and trying to meet everyone's expectations left her exhausted. And now she's taking out her frustration and resentment on Hyakkaryouran, and together with Nature's Beauty, she unleashes evil spirits on the district. The students try to defend themselves, but obviously normal bullets do not affect them. The order from the Yin Yang Club? To keep the festival going. Since the tome Nature's Beauty is now using feeds on fear, a way to neutralize it is to distract the citizens with the festival. By doing so, they manage to keep the spirits at bay until the members of Hyakkaryouran return to Hyakkaryouran. Once they get there, they start putting together a plan, together with Nia of the Yin Yang Club. It's not like they can keep the festival going forever to keep the spirits at bay. They need to destroy the tome the enemy is using, and Nia proposes to fight using another tome. She reveals that she recovered the cover of the destroyed tome that Shiro used in part 1 and had it restored. The problem is that rebuilding the physical book is one thing, but they didn't know its content, so the pages are blank. She asks Shuro to fill them, who is revealed to be an online novel author, and from the title, she makes isekai novels. Oh god, she makes isekai slop. I did not expect that she had this kind of hobby. Nia tells her to create whatever she wants, and Shuro tries to create a new phantom fable, and it results in this thing. Damn, she sucks. I think Nia was expecting this result after reading some of her novels. With the addition of this cat creature, the spirit outbreak turns into a big joke, and it further disrupts the effectiveness of Asami's tome, which, in case you forgot, feeds on people's fear. With the spirit invasion halted, the Hyakkaryouran faces Asami and Lady Kokuriko, who reveals that she was secretly holding the third tome, the one that was supposed to be lost. Its power consists in averting one's gaze inwards, ripping someone apart by putting them in front of all their insecurities. Kokuriko used this tome on Ayame and turned her into what she is today. But the journey Nagusa went through with Sensei has made her learn about herself and grow as a person, so she is able to break the spell and even get her arm back from the spirit realm. Kokuriko admits defeat and decides to leave. Now, the only thing left to do is for Nagusa to face Ayame. They find her, and Nagusa declares that she will alleviate her of her biggest burden and take the presidency from her through a succession contest, a 1v1 fight, and Sensei and Kikyo will fulfill the role as witnesses. And so they fight, and we are treated once again to an animated fight scene. Thank you, Blue Archive devs, for your hard work. Once again, I'm impressed by how cool they can make a fight between two chibis look. In the end, Nagusa manages to surpass Ayame, and right after defeating her, she apologizes for not noticing that she was suffering and for adding to her burden in the past, and swears to be better in the future. The epilogue is pretty short for a change. Nagusa explains to Sensei that after their fight, Ayame fell into a deep sleep and hasn't woken up since. Maybe a result of her contact with the spirit realm. But according to Nagusa, it's because she's taking her time to reflect on things while sleeping. Until the day Ayame wakes up, Nagusa will stay by her side, waiting for her. Sensei is hanging out with the Makeup Work Club, and they find out that the week after, all Trinity students will have to take a comprehensive exam that covers all sorts of subjects. Every student in the district is working hard to prepare for it. Two students ask Sensei for a private talk. They reveal themselves to be former Arius students. They were offered the opportunity to transfer to Trinity, and they took it, and are now enjoying a better life. They ask Sensei about the exam, because they never took one, and they wish the other students who stayed behind in the Arius district could have a taste of normal school life by also taking the exam, and Sensei promises to fulfill their wish. Sensei's first move is to get in contact with Squad and discuss the upcoming exam with them. They are a bit hesitant at first, But Sensei says that studying would be a good way to learn about the world and fit better in society after spending most of their life in the secluded Arius district. Sensei also asked Nagisa of the Tea Party to join their little meeting. She rented a cruise ship for the occasion, which is why they are on a cruise ship, in case you were wondering. Anyway, Nagisa shows up to apologize on behalf of Trinity to Arius. It might seem weird that she's apologizing to the group that committed a terrorist attack against Trinity during the signing of the Eden Treaty, and that's also how the members of Squad feel. But Nagisa thinks these events could have been avoided if she had reached out to Arius and tried to heal the relationship between the two academies, which had been in a conflict for a very long time. Like Sensei, she wants the Arius students to integrate into society, and she thinks a good first step would be for them to participate in the upcoming exam, together with the Trinity students. Squad decides to go along with the plan, and, together with Sensei, head to the Arius district, where they haven't been since the end of the Eden Treaty arc. Here's the current situation in the district. The group of students that stayed behind is led by this girl named Subaru. She doesn't trust the outside world. She still doesn't like Trinity, and she also sees the members of Squad as traitors for abandoning the district to live outside. She also plays the harmonica. When they see Squad enter Arius, they prepare for a fight, but when they see Sensei with them, they decide to hear them out first. Saori and Sensei explain the situation and invite Subaru and the other students to take the exam, but she responds that they are willing to listen to someone only after they have proven themselves to be the strongest. That is the Arius way, after all. And so Squad is forced into a firefight against their schoolmates. After getting defeated, Subaru and the other students agree to listen to Sensei, who has decided to hold classes to prepare them for the exam, and has the members of Squad help teach them about the outside world, by sharing the knowledge that they have accumulated. After the lesson, Saori asks Sensei to have a private talk. She asks to see under Sensei's shirt, a scenario right out of a doujin. She wants to see the scar that she left when she shot Sensei during the terrorist attack, and she apologizes for her past actions. She has been feeling guilty for a while now. She resents what she used to be and wants to be a better person. Good job, Saori. Meanwhile, Subaru is chatting with her best friend, Maya, about the lesson, and she reveals where the money they used to buy supplies comes from. She has been taking on illegal jobs. Thankfully, she hasn't killed anyone yet. She's not evil. Pushing her forward is the desire to protect her fellow Arius students. That night, Saori sees a weird being, resembling an angel with a trumpet, a sign of things to come. The next day, Sensei decides to take the students on a field trip outside the district. They go downtown, to a swimming pool, to eat a happy meal. Everything is going well, until the moment they visit a park, and Maya notices a kitten on a tree. They decide to handle it Arius style and shoot the tree to make the cat calm down. They attract the attention of the people around, who recognize the Arius uniforms and start bad-mouthing them and accusing them of being criminals. The mood is ruined and doesn't recover much during the rest of the trip. When they return to Arius, they find out that some Trinity students have entered the district. And that's the end of the arc. The Trinity students are the Remedial Knights, a club dedicated to offering medical aid and supplies to those in need. I guess they are kinda like the Red Cross. They already met Squad during Volume F when they fought together against the Chroma. Their captain, Mine, decided to bring supplies to the students still living in the ruins of the Arius district. Sensei tells them to go ahead, but suggests hiding the fact that they are associated with Trinity to avoid conflict. They establish an infirmary and start distributing rations and supplies to the students in need. Meanwhile, Sensei keeps holding classes for the upcoming exam. One day, everyone hears a trumpet. They go check what's going on and find 4 of these angel-looking creatures. They start attacking, and Squad and the remedial knights try to fight them, but they are surprisingly tough. Mine gets hit by one of their attacks and has a vision of all the suffering the people of Arius had to go through for generations. A vision of despair, of resentment, of hopelessness. Mina regrets not being there in the past to help those in need, and swears to continue her mission of providing aid in the future. Using all of her power, she charges forward and drives the angels away, but she passes out and has to be carried to a hospital. So the remedial knights have to leave the district already. Mina regains consciousness for a moment and pleads with Sensei to protect the Arius students. Also, it is revealed that it was Nagisa that sent the knights to Arius to help out. Subaru calls for a meeting in the Arius Basilica to discuss what just happened. The students are convinced the angels they saw were the angels of Revelation, mentioned in the Book of Revelation, a book they all believe in, which mentions a prophecy. 7 angels will appear and sound the trumpet 7 times, and then the world will end. Mysteriously, some students say they heard the trumpet 4 times when the angels appeared, but some say they didn't hear the trumpet at all. Subaru is convinced the events of the scriptures are manifesting because they let outsiders into the district. Maya tries to oppose this hypothesis and proposes to ask Sensei for help. So Subaru has Maya escorted away from the basilica, and then she feels terrible for treating her close friend this way. With nowhere left to go, Maya goes to Sensei. Out of respect, Sensei doesn't ask her what happened and lets her sleep next to them. No, nothing lewd happened. This is not a doujin. Sensei wouldn't do that. Probably. The next morning, Subaru and the other Arius students go to Porta Pacis, a location in Arius where all sorts of documents about history and interpretations of the scriptures are preserved, to hopefully learn more about what's going on. Sensei holds their usual class, but no one shows up, other than Squad and Maya, who says she knows where everyone might have gone. None of the students have ever entered Porta Pacis. It's law to never enter unless absolutely necessary, so no one knows what they'll find inside. Before heading out, Sensei calls Trinity's librarian, Stinky Girl Ui, to ask if she knows something about it. Ui says Porta Pacis was built right after Arius split from Trinity. There were some disagreements about the construction of this monument, which led to a civil war in Arius. Below lies a massive underground archive, a record of the history of Arius. But access to the archive was forbidden 150 years ago, and now knowledge about the history of Arius is based on a shaky oral tradition. As for the Book of Revelation, it's the last chapter of the scripture passed down in Arius and Trinity. However, while in Trinity the book is not taken literally, and it's more of a reference text, in Arius it is taken at face value, and it's believed that the world will end. I'm sure the parallels with real-world branches of Christianity are pretty obvious. The book predicts that 7 angels will appear and blow the trumpets 7 times to signal the end. And those who could hear them said that the trumpets have been sounded 4 times already. While Squad and Sensei are busy with the exposition dump, Subaru and the other students arrive at Puerto Pachis. She orders them to guard the outside and decides to go in alone. Meanwhile, Maya explains that only some students could hear the trumpets, while some couldn't. And from her description, they figure out why. Only those who enjoyed Sensei's lessons could hear them. Basically, students more open to new ideas and a change of direction for Aries. Subaru looks around the old archive and finds some scriptures about the history of Aries. Texts not known to Trinity, as they are apocrypha. The history of hatred for Trinity and Gehenna, and finally a clue on what might be going on. The text says that the angels are a representation of the people of Aries. Also, she starts hearing voices in her head. Arguably not a good sign. Squad, Sensei and Maya get to Puerto Pachis, and the other Aries students try to keep them out, when suddenly 2 angels appear, and the trumpets are heard 2 more times. Squad tries to take them out, but even 2 angels are too much for the 4 of them. The other Aries students propose a truce, and accept to let them meet with Subaru, so Sensei, Squad and Maya finally can confront her. Subaru asks Sensei a question. Why, after the events of the Eden Treaty arc, didn't they try to help the remaining Aries students, and instead left them to their own destiny? Why were they neglected for so long? The answer is simple. Trinity asked Sensei to step aside and let them handle Aries from that point on. Subaru thinks Sensei shouldn't have trusted Trinity, but accepts this explanation. The fact is, the Aries students were left to fend for themselves ever since, in the ruins of their district, the outside world indifferent to their struggles. So now she asks Sensei to let the Aries students handle things their own way instead of trying to change things. They don't need exams or lessons. They just want to be left alone. But Saori disagrees. She thinks the quote-unquote Aries way of doing things has only led her to bad decisions. Only after leaving did she become a better person. Also, she announces that she's done running from her past and plans to turn herself in to the police to stop living as a fugitive and pay the price for what she has done. But Subaru is not impressed by Saori's words. She thinks she's looking down on her, and still resents Squad for abandoning the district to live outside. In a fit of rage, she loses control, and she transforms into a trumpeting angel. Atsuko explains the real nature of the angels, which she has suspected for a while, but only now she's sure of it. They are not the 7 angels mentioned in the scriptures. They are simply a manifestation of the emotions accumulated in Aries. The desire to bring judgment upon Kivotos for the way Aries has been treated. This phenomenon could have actually led to the destruction of the world, but it required an impartial judge for it to happen, and Subaru lost the right to be one when she abandoned Maya. They try to convince her to stop. Maya steps in and tells Subaru that everything is going to be alright, and that she wants to hear her play the harmonica again. In response, Subaru disappears. She has teleported outside and has absorbed the other 2 angels. She's still struggling to let go of the hatred deep inside of her, so Maya starts playing the harmonica to reach her. Once weakened, Squad, together with the rest of Arius, gives Subaru a good beating to wake her up. After being defeated, Subaru returns to normal. She apologizes for having tried to force her ideas on everyone, but everything she has done was because she wanted to protect the Arius students. Everyone respects her efforts, but it's about time for Arius to move forward from its past. The Arius students are brought to Trinity, to the Remedial Knights headquarters, to receive treatment and rest. Sensei resumes their lessons to prepare them for the upcoming exam. Nagisa is grateful for Sensei's actions, and she's really determined to make peace with Arius. She proposes to unify the two academies' archives, to reconstruct their history in the most unbiased way possible. Sensei is starting to understand Nagisa better, and realizes how hard it must have been for her to play the part of the villain in the past. It's clear now that she was just trying to protect Trinity, and doing what seemed right to her. So Sensei apologizes for doubting her. Also, Mika and Seiya show up again. Say hi to them. As promised, the members of Squad hand themselves over to the police for the terrorist attack. But they are released on parole shortly after, because, and I quote, blowing up buildings and setting off explosions are par for the course in Kivotos. Sometimes I love how stupid the Blue Archive universe is. Since they handed themselves over of their own free will, they have shown remorse for their actions, and both Trinity and Sensei have petitioned for their release. They are letting them go. And Saori rightly thinks this is very sloppy procedure. Hard to disagree. So, the members of Squad can go back to prepare for the exam, together with the others. The day of the exam arrives. Many Arius students don't pass. But it doesn't matter. It was a chance for them to feel like normal students for the first time. So, what will happen to Arius going forward? Until the next official student council is elected, Squad will operate in its place, with Atsuko as president. Every student will get a part-time job to experience the outside world and make money. Subaru and her followers are appointed as the disciplinary team. The works to restore the district to its old glory start. Finally, after many years of turmoil, life in Arius can slowly return to normal.